Chapter 940. Everyone stepped forward. There was a vast sea in front of them. It was the ring-shaped sea. If they wanted to enter the sea god's mountain, they had to cross the ring-shaped sea first. The ring-shaped sea was so vast that even soul kings and soul emperors couldn't cross it directly. They could only swim. However, they would definitely be drenched if they swam. Obuchi, my third soul skill allows me to fly. Everyone can fly if they eat one of my sausages, Oscar said to Lu Yuan as he looked at the ring-shaped sea in front of him. Everyone was shocked when they heard Oscar's words. Flying skills were very rare. Oscar could be considered an extremely talented food-type soul master if he had such an auxiliary-type soul skill. However, those who understood Oscar, such as Ma Hongjun and the others, were speechless. Oscar's sausages were pretty good, but his soul curse was very strange. Those who heard it for the first time wouldn't be able to eat his sausages. There's no need for that. We'll have to cross the sea god's light later. You should conserve some soul power. You've used up more than half of your soul power after making these 10 sausages. Lu Yuan shook his head and said, Oscar's third soul skill wasn't his first soul skill. His first soul skill was recovery sausages, and he could make hundreds of them. However, his third soul skill required him to fly, which consumed a lot of soul power. Furthermore, Oscar's third soul skill was called, I have a big black sausage. After hearing this name, Lu Yuan guessed that many people wouldn't be able to eat Oscar's sausages. After all, they hadn't trained together before. This was the first time they had gathered together. It would be a little difficult for them to accept Oscar's sausages. Let me do it, Lu Yuan said softly. He waved his right hand, and the entire ring-shaped sea started to shake. Streams of water shot out. Under Lu Yuan's control, they condensed into a huge water bridge above the ring-shaped sea. Water flowed on the water bridge, and it was very strange. After that, blue light flickered in Lu Yuan's hand and poured into the water bridge. The entire water bridge started to condense. Not long later, it turned into ice. An ice bridge emitting white mist stood directly above the ring-shaped sea. The sunlight shone on the ice bridge, refracting 7 colored rays of light. It was exceptionally gorgeous. The diameter of the ring-shaped sea was more than 2,000 meters, which meant that the ice bridge Lu Yuan condensed was also more than 2,000 meters long. To be able to condense such a long ice bridge, Lu Yuan's attainments in controlling water and ice were already beyond the imagination of ordinary people. Boss, you're really awesome. I'm convinced. Ma Hongjun couldn't help but exclaim in surprise as he looked at this exquisite and magnificent bridge that directly crossed the distance of 2,000 meters and reached the ice bridge on the other side. It is indeed powerful. The eyes of Evil Moon and the others were also filled with shock. In their eyes, this ice bridge was directly condensed by Lu Yuan. The impact of this was enormous. Let's go. Lu Yuan chuckled and led the way onto the ice bridge. With Lu Yuan's current level of controlling ice, the ice condensed by him was quite hard. It was not a problem for them to walk on it. The distance of 2,000 meters flashed by, and everyone set foot at the foot of the Sea God Mountain. Let's not tear down the ice bridge. It's convenient for the attendants of the Sea God Island to send food. Those who want to try can go up. I'll give you a piece of advice. If you can't hold on, don't climb up anymore. Just come down. There's still plenty of time. There's no need to rush, Lu Yuan instructed. Yes. Everyone nodded in unison. All right. Lu Yuan nodded and walked to the seaside. He whistled softly. Suddenly, 2 figures appeared on the ring-shaped sea. One was dark blue, and the other was silver. They were swimming towards him. Soon, they arrived in the sea in front of Lu Yuan and revealed their full appearances. One was a deep-sea demon whale that was more than 40 meters long, and the other was more than 80 meters long. It was the demon soul Great White Shark King that Lu Yuan had seen before. Xiaolan, looking at the deep-sea demon whale in front of him, Lu Yuan couldn't help but pat its head with a warm smile on his face. From the bottom of his heart, he really liked this simple-minded and kind-hearted deep-sea demon whale. Its naivety reminded Lu Yuan of Wang Qiu-er. That little girl was also very naive. Thank you for bringing Xiaolan here. I'll remember this kindness. Looking at the demon soul, great white shark king, Lu Yuan said softly. No need. It's just a small matter. The demon soul, great white shark king gently opened its mouth and let out a crisp female voice. Although its voice was pleasant to the ears, it was slightly trembling. You seem to be afraid of me. You don't have to be. It's not like I'll eat you. Lu Yuan laughed softly. Hearing this, the demon soul, great white shark king, thought to itself, how could I not be afraid of that terrifying dragon roar that you emitted not long ago? What's your name? Your skin is so white. Don't tell me you're called Xiao Bai. Lu Yuan continued. The corner of the demon soul, great white shark king's mouth twitched. It's really called Xiao Bai. How could this guy be so accurate? Looking at you, you're really called Xiao Bai. It seems that I guessed right. I heard that you're the mount of the sea god. Don't tell me that the sea god gave you this name. Lu Yuan asked. It's the name that the sea god gave me. Xiao Bai nodded and said. It looked at Lu Yuan with a strange gaze. This guy guessed right again. However, although its gaze was strange, the fear it felt was reduced by a lot. This was because it realized that Lu Yuan wasn't that unapproachable and domineering. He also didn't have any intention of hurting it. It seems that the sea god's naming skills are about the same as mine. We're both equally bad. Hearing Xiao Bai's words, Lu Yuan smiled and said softly, the demon's soul, great white shark king's body, was silver white. The sea god called it Xiao Bai. The deep-sea demon whale's skin was dark blue. Lu Yuan called it Xiaolon. The two's naming skills were about the same. You're not allowed to belittle the sea god. Xiao Bai retorted with a trace of dissatisfaction. What's wrong with Xiao Bai? Isn't this name nice? You're quite protective of your master. Interesting. Hearing Xiao Bai's words, Lu Yuan couldn't help but smile. It was obviously afraid of him, but it still dared to scold him when he said bad things about the sea god. Its loyalty to the sea god was unquestionable. All right, if you don't want to say it, then don't say it. I'll give you face. Waving his hand, Lu Yuan said warmly. Hearing this, Xiao Bai blinked its eyes, and its eyes became much kinder. This person seems to be quite easy to get along with. Opening his mouth, Lu Yuan was about to speak when a strong wind suddenly attacked from behind. Lu Yuan moved his body, and a figure directly smashed into the water between Xiaolon and Xiao Bai, causing a splash. Chapter 941. With a splash, white water splashed in all directions. With a wave of his hand, Lu Yuan blocked all the water that splashed out. With a splashing sound, a red figure emerged from the sea. Boss Yuan. Ma Hongjun was drenched and looked at Lu Yuan embarrassedly. Bounced off? You've turned a deaf ear to my words, haven't you? Looking at Ma Hongjun, Lu Yuan's face was expressionless as he spoke. Looking at this guy, he knew that this guy must have been messing around in the light of the sea god. He couldn't hold on, but he still wanted to be brave. In the end, he was bounced off. Boss, your eyes are really sharp. I can't hide anything from you. Ma Hongjun chuckled. Don't be so cheeky with me. Get lost. Don't disturb my chat with Xiaolon and Xiao Bai. Lu Yuan waved his hand and said, unhappily, right away. Ma Hongjun laughed, and his soul rings lit up. He spread his wings and flew out of the ring-shaped sea. I don't like this fatty's aura. Xiao Bai said softly as he looked at the aura of the phoenix flames on Ma Hongjun's body. Xiaolon also nodded in agreement. Aquatic soul beasts hated fire-type soul masters the most, especially when Ma Hongjun had the aura of a phoenix. To fish-type soul beasts, phoenixes were undoubtedly the most hated existence. Hence, Ma Hongjun was despised by Xiao Bai and the others. It's normal that you don't like him. After all, this fatty's martial soul is a fire phoenix. However, this fatty is a good person. He's very loyal. You guys can get to know him. I think they won't be able to do without you in their assessment. Lu Yuan said softly. How do you know so much? Xiao Bai was surprised. Although he wasn't very clear about the content of the assessment, he knew that Zhu Zhuqing and the others couldn't do without him in their assessment. After all, he was the sea god's mount. There was no reason why the sea god's assessment wouldn't include him. Hee, it's a secret. Lu Yuan smiled and didn't answer. Hearing this, Little White rolled her eyes. She was a little dissatisfied with Lu Yuan's silence. All right, I won't chat with you anymore. I'm going to take a look at the sea god's light. I'll have to trouble you to take care of Xiaolan. I'll definitely repay you in the future. Lu Yuan patted Xiaolan's head again, stood up, and looked at Xiaobai. Who cares about your repayment? However, I will help you take care of Xiaolan. This little girl is very different from the deep-sea demonic whale king. She is very pure. Little White said calmly. Thank you. I'm going. Lu Yuan smiled, and then he turned around and walked towards the light of the sea god. Little White watched as Lu Yuan stood up and brought Little Blue back into the ring-shaped sea. When Lu Yuan arrived, Hulina and Zhu Zhuqing were retreating down the stairs. How do you feel? When the two women came to his side, Lu Yuan asked softly. The pressure is a little high. Right now, I can only climb up to the 80th step. Zhu Zhuqing said softly with a serious expression. This is already very good. After all, it's your first time climbing. Just try more in the future. There's still a year's time. Don't worry, Lu Yuan said softly as he caressed Zhu Zhuqing's face. Hearing this, Zhu Zhuqing nodded her head vigorously. What about you, Nana? Looking at Hulina, Lu Yuan asked softly. Me? When I climbed to the 140th step, I couldn't take it anymore. Hulina said softly. You're indeed the best. Take care of Zhuqing later on in the training. Do you understand? Lu Yuan said gently. Oh, I understand. Hulina nodded her head lightly. Well, sorry to trouble you. Gently rubbing Hulina's head, Lu Yuan had a gentle smile on his face. The 311th step is definitely a big challenge for Zhu Zhuqing, but the 310th step is definitely more than enough for Hulina. Hulina is also a top 8 examiner. Sea God's arrangement must be to let Hulina help Zhu Zhuqing. No, it's my duty. Hearing Lu Yuan's words, Hulina shook her head and said. Hearing this, Lu Yuan smiled and gently pinched Hulina's rosy face. Phew, Obuchi, I'm exhausted. A soft voice sounded in Lu Yuan's ears, and Ning Rongrong threw herself into Lu Yuan's arms with a burst of fragrance. How many steps did you climb? Lu Yuan asked softly as he held Ning Rongrong's waist. 440. Ning Rongrong raised her head and said embarrassedly. I knew it. Girl, you can only reach level 40 at most. Lu Yuan smiled faintly. Don't say it. It's so embarrassing. Zhuqing and the others are all above level 80. I feel like I'm trash. Ning Rongrong said with some disappointment. 40 steps is about right. The difficulty of your assessment is different. Moreover, there's still a year's time. In this year, I'll refine more body-tempering pills. After taking them, your physique will quickly strengthen. Passing the final assessment won't be a problem. Moreover, the pressure of the light of the sea god is so great. Not only can it temper the physique, but it's also twice the result with half the effort. Therefore, this year I hope that you can come to the end of the assessment and try to cultivate under the light of the sea god. It's a rare opportunity. Lu Yuan said in a deep voice. Being able to cultivate in an environment like the light of the sea god was definitely a rare opportunity. The light of the sea god was different from the 9 steps to heaven. There was only pressure in the light of the sea god, but there were no flames. Therefore, there was no danger, and one could continue to cultivate. On the 9th step of the 9 steps to heaven, there was the golden angelic flames. Its temperature was even higher than ultimate fire. Even in such an environment, Lu Yuan still persevered and cultivated for a long time before he managed to cultivate a physique that was impervious to fire and water for the first time. Even though it was extremely painful, he still persevered. As long as it didn't violate his bottom line, he definitely wouldn't let go of an opportunity to improve his strength. We got it. Hearing Lu Yuan's words, the 3 girls responded at the same time. They naturally didn't doubt Lu Yuan's words. They were all very convinced. It's good that you know. You've all passed. Now, it's my turn to give it a try. Lu Yuan smiled faintly and then let go of Ning Rongrong. Good luck. Ning Rongrong clenched her little fists and cheered. Just you wait and see. Lu Yuan smiled faintly. In a flash, He disappeared from where he was and appeared in front of the steps. Light of the sea god, let's see how much pressure you have. Lu Yuan reached out and touched the faint golden light in front of him. Then he squeezed his way in. Chapter 942. Is this the first step? As he stepped forward, Lu Yuan didn't seem to feel any pressure at all. To him, the first step of the sea god's light wasn't much different from the outside world. I can't be bothered to waste time. Let's speed up. Lu Yuan shook his head. The dragon's roar beneath his feet whistled, and his entire body was like a roaring golden dragon as he ascended. In just a moment, Lu Yuan appeared at the 500th step. There's no pressure at all. However, I'm afraid that anyone below the transcendent Douluo level will find it difficult to withstand the pressure of the 500th step. Although Nana's physique isn't inferior to an ordinary title Douluo's, there's still a gap between her and a true title Douluo. After all, her soul power is much lower. An ordinary title Douluo would only be able to reach 400 step after some training. No wonder Nana couldn't withstand it. Lu Yuan muttered to himself after experiencing the strength of the sea god's light. From a 500 step onwards, the sea god's light would undergo a qualitative change. Only a transcendent Douluo would be able to reach it. However, this is still far from enough for me. Pressure, haha. I'm least afraid of pressure. Lu Yuan chuckled. After that, he sped up again and quickly climbed up. Look, boss is speeding up again. After Lu Yuan started climbing, everyone stopped what they were doing and looked at Lu Yuan. They were all very curious as to how many steps Lu Yuan could climb. However, Lu Yuan's performance at the beginning gave them a shock. In the blink of an eye, Lu Yuan had reached the 500th step. It was a height that they could only dream of. What made them even more speechless was that Lu Yuan sped up again after standing still for a while. He's almost at the 700th step. Evil Moon clicked his tongue as he looked at Lu Yuan's figure. Although he knew that Lu Yuan was very strong, he didn't have a direct experience of it. However, after seeing Lu Yuan pass through the sea god's light today, he finally knew how big the gap between them was. He had only reached the 65th step after risking his life. However, Lu Yuan had reached the 700th step in the blink of an eye. Furthermore, he was still climbing rapidly. The gap between them was so big that it made him feel hopeless. I think boss can reach the 900th step at the end, Ma Hongjun said confidently. He was the first underling of Lu Yuan, and the only person who addressed Lu Yuan as boss. He was very confident of Lu Yuan. No, I think it's at least 950 steps. Hulaina shook her head and said, S2's light. You're all underestimating him. I think he can reach the 1000th step. Ning Rongrong shook her head and said with certainty. If Hulina trusted Lu Yuan wholeheartedly, then Ning Rongrong's confidence in Lu Yuan had reached the point of blindness. As soon as Ning Rongrong said this, Zhu Zhuqing and the others all looked at her. Why are you all looking at me like this? You don't believe me? Ning Rongrong said with dissatisfaction. I believe you. I believe you. Everyone responded and averted their gazes with strange expressions on their faces. You obviously don't believe me, but you dare to underestimate Obuchi. You'll definitely be surprised when the final result comes out. Zhuqing, when the time comes, I'll definitely tell Obuchi that you don't believe he can reach the 1000th step. Ning Rongrong snorted and said coquettishly. Zhu Zhuqing's mouth twitched when she heard this. She was a little speechless. She didn't say that she didn't believe Huiyu Hao, but reaching the 1000th step was a little too shocking. Although she was confident in Lu Yuan, she didn't dare to make such a guarantee. Furthermore, if she wanted to tell Lu Yuan about this, it would be too. Rongrong, this girl, is really, no wonder she's Lu Yuan's #1 fan. Zhu Zhuqing shook her head. She was a little speechless about Ning Rongrong's actions. Ning Rongrong looked around at everyone and snorted again. She shifted her gaze to Lu Yuan, who was still climbing. Go, Obuchi. Ning Rongrong clenched her fists and said coquettishly. While Ning Rongrong and the others were talking at the foot of the Sea God's Mountain, Lu Yuan had already reached the 900th step. After reaching the 900th step, there was another qualitative change. The pressure suddenly increased to the level of an ultimate Douluo. This is interesting. He's actually reached the ultimate Douluo realm from the 900th step. What about the 1000th step? He's at least a demigod? Lu Yuan's expression became serious as he sensed the terrifying pressure from the dense golden light around him. The pressure of an ultimate Douluo was already enough to pressure him. It seems like I'll have to walk slower from now on. Lu Yuan smiled and continued forward. When Lu Yuan reached the 900th step, Pasizi, who was sitting in the sea god's palace, suddenly opened her blue eyes. This is interesting. I want to see how many steps this kid can climb. Pasizi's lips curled into a beautiful smile, and a look of interest flashed across her eyes. Under normal circumstances, I can only climb to the 965th step if I give it my all. Pasizi muttered softly. When she said normal circumstances, she was naturally referring to the condition where she didn't use her divine power. 950th step, intermediate ultimate Douluo. When he reached the 950th step, Lu Yuan immediately felt the intensity of the pressure. This is interesting. Lu Yuan chuckled, and his five-clawed golden dragon king martial soul instantly appeared in his body. Without using the power of his martial soul, he couldn't continue forward. A loud dragon's roar rang out, and with the power of his five-clawed golden dragon king martial soul, Lu Yuan began to advance again. He's already passed the 965th step? Pasizi's eyes lit up as she watched Lu Yuan reach the 966th step. Good job, kid, Pasizi praised. Lu Yuan had already surpassed her in her normal state. Let's go out and take a look, Pasizi said as she stepped out of the sea god's palace and stood in front of the palace gate. 970th step. Advanced ultimate Douluo. Lu Yuan murmured again and released his golden dragon domain and slaying god domain at the same time. Pasizi looked down at Lu Yuan with a serious expression, and her eyes were filled with praise. 970th step. What an exceptional prodigy, Pasizi praised. What immense pressure. 980th step, pinnacle ultimate Douluo. After reaching the 980th step, even Lu Yuan's expression had turned completely serious. Golden dragon armor, appear. The divine-grade golden dragon armor appeared on Lu Yuan's body, and Lu Yuan's entire body was covered in golden scales. The power of the golden dragon armor was helping him keep the terrifying pressure at bay. Chapter 943. Lu Yuan continued to climb with his golden dragon armor on. However, he was very slow. Every step he took had to withstand immense pressure. Even the pressure of a pinnacle ultimate Douluo can't do anything to my demigod physique. Lu Yuan shouted as he reached the 990th step. Whoosh! The sudden pressure caused Lu Yuan's body to sway. Icy blue and fiery red lights extended from Lu Yuan's back at the same time. The god-tier external soul bone and the water-fire dragon king wings appeared. What can the pressure of a demigod do to me? Although my fighting strength is only at the level of a demigod, the pressure I can withstand is nothing. Lu Yuan shouted in his heart. After that, he reached the 999th step under Pasizi's astonished gaze. At this step, the pressure was already at the pinnacle of the demigod rank. Lu Yuan was only 2 steps away from Poseidon's current position, and he would be on the same level as her. You really surprised me. Pasizi's eyes were filled with astonishment as she looked at Lu Yuan, who was not too far away from her. Even her usual calm and graceful expression changed slightly. Lu Yuan's performance was far beyond her expectations. The 999th step was the pinnacle of the demigod rank. Even if she borrowed the power of the sea god, she couldn't reach this position. Pressure tolerance and fighting strength were 2 different things. For example, the sword Douluo was far stronger than the bone Douluo. However, you might not be stronger than the bone Douluo in terms of pressure tolerance. This was because the pressure tolerance was not only dependent on one's cultivation, but also one's physique. Pasizi didn't have a demigod body. She could borrow her godly power to fight a demigod, but she definitely couldn't withstand the pressure of a pinnacle demigod in the sea god's light. The pressure of the sea god's light was deep in one's bones. It wasn't as simple as a demigod's one-sided pressure. It was all-encompassing. One's entire body and mind would be under that pressure. There was no way to dodge it. One could only rely on one's soul power and physique to withstand it. Lu Yuan's soul power was naturally far from enough. However, his demigod body was extremely resistant to pressure. Furthermore, his physique was far stronger than a demigod's. Lu Yuan and Pasizi looked at each other on the 999th step. Pasizi was very beautiful. Even from the bottom, she was still stunningly beautiful. And now, the beauty was shocked, her eyebrows slightly furrowed, giving her a different kind of charm. How did you do it? Pasizi asked. What do you mean? Lu Yuan asked. I mean, how did you climb up the 999th step? Pasizi. Didn't you watch? You just climbed up step by step. Lu Yuan laughed softly. Pasizi was speechless. Looking at Pasizi's slightly darkened face, Lu Yuan smiled faintly and said, I won't tease you anymore. The reason why I can climb so high is because I have a demigod body. I'm only one step away from a divine body. Demigod body? Pasizi murmured softly. She knew what a demigod body was, but she had never heard of a demigod body. However, seeing how Lu Yuan climbed to the 999th step so smoothly, this demigod body should be stronger than a demigod body. She could still deduce such a small thing. Amazing, Pasizi said. Even she had to admit that Lu Yuan was really amazing to be able to condense a demigod body that surpassed a demigod body at the 79th step. Thank you for the compliment. I think so too. Lu Yuan smiled brightly. Hearing this, Pasizi's mouth twitched slightly. She once again discovered a new attribute of Lu Yuan. Thick skin. Do you still want to continue climbing? Pasizi asked. Of course. Lu Yuan nodded and said. The 1000th step will be very different, Pasizi said. I know. It's a demigod body, but I still want to give it a try. Lu Yuan's eyes flashed with a hint of determination. Then I'll wait and see your performance. Pasizi smiled and said softly. Then watch carefully. Lu Yuan smiled faintly. His back, right arm, left palm, and right palm lit up almost at the same time. The light gathered and a set of colorful godly equipment appeared on Lu Yuan's body. At the same time, Lu Yuan waved his right hand and the Dragon Emperor Draining Spring Spear appeared in his hand. Facing the 1000th step, Lu Yuan was really going all out. He's moving. Obuchi is going to climb the 1000th step. At the foot of the mountain, seeing Lu Yuan move, Ning Rongrong said with some excitement. If these guys didn't believe it, let's see how Obuchi will slap their faces later. As expected of the Hall Master, he's really amazing. Fu Qinsheng and the others couldn't help but praise. I can't help but admire him. His Highness the Holy Sun is so strong. Evil Moon smiled bitterly. Sure enough, a monster beyond imagination was not something they could predict. Rong was right. Zhu Zhuqing touched her face. She could already imagine Ning Rong snitching on her in a while. Tonight, Lu Yuan won't use this as a pretext to make a fuss, right? Zhu Zhuqing muttered softly. Her face was slightly red. She suspected that Lu Yuan would use this opportunity to do something bad because she knew Lu Yuan too well. Come on, Obuchi. Bulina's eyes flickered as she said softly. Boss, you're awesome. Ma Hongjun exclaimed. Lu Yuan naturally didn't know what they were talking about below. Under the gaze of Pasizi, he, who was fully armed, stepped onto the 1000th step. Boom! A powerful pressure instantly surged, and Lu Yuan's body trembled. His legs went soft, and he knelt on the ground with a thud. The pressure seemed to be all-pervasive, and he could even hear his bones creaking under the pressure. Lu Yuan shouted loudly. He clenched his teeth, held the Dragon Emperor Draining Spring Spear with both hands, and pressed it against the ground. Rise! Rise! Lu Yuan's face was flushed red. His forehead was wrinkled, and the veins on his arms were bulging. However, his body slowly stood up. Pasizi had been watching Lu Yuan closely. Looking at Lu Yuan's performance, her heart couldn't help but tremble, and her eyes were filled with shock. This kind of unyielding will cause her mind to be slightly absent-minded, and she thought of a certain indomitable figure. But compared to that figure, the young man in front of her was much more outstanding. The new generation excels the old. Looks like I'm really getting old. Pasizi mocked herself, but her eyes flashed as she looked at Lu Yuan. Such a heaven's pride was truly rare in her life. Boom! An invisible aura emerged from Lu Yuan's body and collided with a huge pressure, causing a loud bang. At this time, he finally stood up and pointed the Dragon Emperor draining spring spear to the ground. Lu Yuan's body was like a javelin as he stood upright. He was wearing a colorful divine armor. At this moment, Lu Yuan was like a god of war. Chapter 944. Time flowed like water, quietly passing by his fingertips. In the blink of an eye, 3 months had passed. Lu Yuan stood up on the 1,000th step. If he had needed the help of the Dragon Emperor drained spring spear and his godly equipment to gain a foothold on the 1,000th step 3 months ago, he no longer needed the Dragon Emperor drained spring spear. In fact, he didn't even need his demigod armor anymore. With his golden dragon armor and water and fire dragon king wings, he was now able to move freely on the 1,000th step. The terrifying pressure further tempered his body. Lu Yuan could feel that his body, which had reached the pseudo-god level, was becoming more mature and perfect under the pressure. As for his soul power, it had already broken through to rank 80. If he was outside, he could even ask the Water Dragon King or the Fire Dragon King to sacrifice him to break through to the soul Douluo realm. However, he couldn't do that on the Sea God's Island. The Sea God's Island was the Sea God's territory, and the Aqua Fire Dragon King's sacrifice couldn't be hidden from him. Therefore, Lu Yuan didn't mention anything about breaking through. After all, his soul power was accumulated here, and it would be reflected when he left the Sea God's Island and obtained his 8th soul ring. You've improved a lot, Pasizi said with a smile as she looked at Lu Yuan, who was standing on the 1,000th step. She had seen Lu Yuan's improvement over the past 3 months. He could easily resist the pressure of a quasi-god without his demigod equipment or his demigod equipment. It could be said that it was a huge breakthrough. She had no doubt that in the remaining 9 months, the guy in front of her would be able to step onto the 1,001st step. Although compared to the 1,000th step, the 1,001st step was a qualitative change and reached a whole new realm, she still believed that the young man in front of her could complete it. She would chat with Lu Yuan every day over the past 3 months. Most powerful people were lonely, and Sendoryu and Pasizi were the same. Ordinary people weren't qualified to talk to them at all. Only people who were of similar strength or status could become friends with them. This applied no matter which world they were in. Just like how the friends of geniuses were mostly geniuses, the friends of fools were basically not that smart. Birds of a feather flocked together. This sentence was very accurate. Pasizi had always been lonely. Even the strongest of the 7 holy pillar guardians, the Sea Dragon Douluo of the Sea Dragon Holy Pillar, was only at rank 95. Compared to Pasizi, the difference was like heaven and earth. However, the appearance of Lu Yuan gave Pasizi a person to talk to. After 3 months, the two were quite familiar with each other. It was like they were old friends. Great progress. I don't think it's enough, Lu Yuan said softly as he looked at Pasizi standing in front of the sea god's palace. The light of the sea god was very spiritual. Although Pasizi was in it, he did not feel the slightest bit of pressure. However, the pressure on his body was very heavy. He had to admit that the power of a god was still something. If this is not enough, how much stronger do you want to become? After hearing Lu Yuan's words, Pasizi shook her head in amusement. She waved her hand slightly, and a golden pearl of light appeared in her hand. She walked down the stairs 1,001st, 1,000, and directly arrived in front of Lu Yuan. She did not feel any pressure at all. This was the special thing about being recognized by the sea god. Unless Pasizi wanted to challenge the light of the sea god himself, the light of the sea god could not pressure her at all. If you really want to become stronger, absorb it. Once you become a soul Douluo, you'll naturally become stronger. Pasizi spoke gently and handed the golden pearl of light to Lu Yuan. A God-bestowed soul ring? Lu Yuan sighed softly. He was naturally not unfamiliar with this thing. It was not like he had not absorbed it before. Although it might not be very useful to me. Thank you. Lu Yuan said as he received the God-bestowed soul ring from Pasizi. Although a God-bestowed soul ring could only reach 999,999 years at most and could not break through to 1,000,000 years, it was still a God-bestowed soul ring. It would be a waste if you did not take it. You don't have to thank me. You deserve it. However, you are really stubborn. After hearing Lu Yuan's words, she knew that Lu Yuan still did not want to become a soul Douluo. However, although she did not know what Lu Yuan was thinking, she would not force Lu Yuan since he had decided. After hearing Pasizi's words, Lu Yuan smiled faintly. It was not that he did not want to break through, but he wanted a 1,000,000-year soul ring at the very least. A 999,999-year soul ring was not good enough for him. Of course, he did not say this out loud. Otherwise, no matter how good Pasizi's temper was, he would probably be scolded to death. Lu Yuan flipped his palm and kept the God-bestowed soul ring. He looked at Pasizi and his eyes flickered slightly. You want to go down and accompany your girlfriend? Lu Yuan's eyes changed, and Pasizi knew what he was thinking. After 3 months of conversation, she had a good understanding of Lu Yuan. Lu Yuan smiled and did not say anything. Sigh, it's so good to be young, so loving, Pasizi said with a hint of envy in her eyes. You don't look old. You are very young and still radiant. It's a pity that I was born late. If I was born 100 years earlier, I would definitely have made you my wife. As for Tang Chun and Sindoryu, they all have to stand aside. Lu Yuan said seriously. Hearing Lu Yuan's words, Pasizi could not help but burst into laughter. Her beautiful smile blossomed. You little rascal, you only know how to make me laugh. However, if I could have met someone like you back then, it would have been pretty good. Not only were you powerful, but you were also very interesting. Pasizi said coquettishly. Oh, do you mean that Tang Chun and Sindoryu are both taciturn? Lu Yuan laughed. Something like that. Both of them are too serious. Pasizi shook her head and said as she recalled what happened when she was young. They just want to perform in front of their goddess. I've seen many people like that, Lu Yuan said plainly. This, perhaps. Pasizi hesitated for a while and said softly. Not perhaps, but definitely. Lu Yuan said in a deep voice. Hearing that, Pasizi smiled and shook her head again. Suddenly, she seemed to have thought of something. She stared at Lu Yuan and asked, Do you have any enmity with the Clear Sky sect? Yes, a life and death enmity. Back then, you ruined my plans. Why? Are you still thinking of helping the Clear Sky sect deal with me now? Lu Yuan looked at Pasizi and asked plainly. Don't misunderstand. I didn't mean that. Back then, I took action because of Tang Chun. Pasizi waved her hand and said softly. If that's the case, that's good. However, even if you wanna, you won't have the chance. The Clear Sky sect has been destroyed by me. Chapter 945. I've already destroyed the Clear Sky sect. Lu Yuan's calm voice resounded. What did you say? Pasizi couldn't help but exclaim when she heard Lu Yuan's words. Her rosy lips were slightly agape, and there was a trace of shock on her face. The #1 sect in the world was destroyed, just like that? I said I've already destroyed the Clear Sky sect. Lu Yuan repeated. Is it really destroyed? Poseidon asked. Of course. Lu Yuan nodded and said. Tang Xiao and the others? Of course they're dead. Is there need to ask? The entire Clear Sky sect was destroyed. Lu Yuan said calmly. Hiss, you're so cruel. Pasizi sized up Lu Yuan as if she wanted to get to know him all over again. How could such a humorous and handsome young man be so cruel? If I wasn't cruel, would I have left them alive to go against me? Furthermore, the Clear Sky sect isn't a good sect to begin with. They bully the weak and fear the strong. They're a bunch of spineless cowards. They've long lost the strength of Tang Chun. Oh, that's right. Tang Chun is fine. We didn't even see him in the Clear Sky sect. Lu Yuan said calmly. Phew. Pasizi heaved a sigh of relief when she heard this. It was fine as long as Tang Chun was fine. As for the Clear Sky sect, what did that have to do with Pasizi? She only needed to take care of her sea god's island. She had already helped them out for Tang Chun's sake. She had already done her best. But don't worry. If I meet Tang Chun, I'll definitely kill him. Invincible Earth. What a great title. I'm not convinced. Do you think he'll die if he meets me? Lu Yuan asked with a smile when he saw Pasizi heaving a sigh of relief. You. Pasizi was furious when she heard Lu Yuan's words. She glared at Lu Yuan with her beautiful blue eyes, and her calm expression changed. Although Tang Chun was powerful, it was only limited to the extreme level. Back then, when he and Sindoryu fought against her, they were easily defeated by her. In her eyes, Lu Yuan's strength was not inferior to her, who had borrowed divine power. If Tang Chen's strength did not improve greatly over the years, he would definitely die if he met Lu Yuan. TSK, why are you so anxious? Do you like Tang Chen that much? Is Tang Chen that good? Looking at Pasizi's expression, Lu Yuan's interest was piqued. He wanted to know what the real Tang Chen was like. After understanding him, he would send him to the afterlife. Yes, that's right, that's the way. Lu Yuan thought to himself. Tang Chun is naturally very good. He's the first person to become an ultimate Douluo on his own. Pasizi said softly, and there was a gentle look on her face. TSK, in the end, you still like his strength. Furthermore, he's the first person to become an ultimate Douluo on his own. That's not necessarily true. My Dragon Emperor Douluo, Long Xiaoyao, is also indomitable. He also became an ultimate Douluo on his own. I think you like Tang Chun because there are too few outstanding men. After all, you came from the Sea God's Island, and you won't see many men in your life. Since you're single now, and my elder Long is also single, why don't the two of you become a couple? Anyway, if I meet Tang Chun, I'll definitely kill him. If you fall in love with someone else in advance, you won't have to be sad then. Furthermore, my elder Long is very infatuated. He knows how to flirt and dotes on his wife. He's much better than that blockhead Tang Chun. You're lucky to be with him, Lu Yuan said with a smile. Tang Chun was the first person to become an ultimate Douluo on his own. He might have been the first in the original novel, but he was no longer the first after Long Xiaoyao was summoned. Long Xiaoyao was definitely younger than Tang Chun when he became an ultimate Douluo. What? Long Xiaoyao was Do 2? So what? When he reached Do 1, he was Do 1. Was there something wrong with him? There didn't seem to be anything wrong with him. Yes, there was nothing wrong with him at all. Creak. This was the sound of her knuckles rubbing against each other as she clenched her fists. Pasizi's chest rose and fell rapidly. Her loose red robe couldn't hide her impressive figure. She stared at Lu Yuan with her beautiful blue eyes, as if she was about to spit fire. This fellow is too despicable. What's he talking about? What does he mean by falling in love with someone else in advance? And she won't be too sad after Tang Chen dies. Is that something a human would say? Furthermore, he wants to get her and Long Xiaoyao together. It's fine if they're together, but he actually said that she was lucky. This is really intolerable. Does he really think that Pasizi doesn't have a temper? No one has dared to speak to her like this for so many years. Lu Yuan smiled faintly as he looked at Pasizi, who was about to spit fire. He felt a sense of accomplishment to be able to make Pasizi, who was usually calm and composed, become like this. You're still laughing. Pasizi shouted angrily. Haha, it's just a joke. Elder Pasizi, why are you so agitated? It's bad for your body to be angry. Lu Yuan chortled as he said. Is there anyone who jokes like you? Pasizi glared at Lu Yuan and said unhappily. Hee hee. Lu Yuan chuckled, but didn't say anything. Pasizi glared at him again. However, Pasizi's mental state was extremely high. After a while, she calmed down. Are you serious about killing Tang Chen? Pasizi glanced at Lu Yuan and asked softly. Of course. You don't think that I'm joking, do you? Or do you want to get rid of me for Tang Chen? Lu Yuan asked. I do have that thought. Pasizi nodded and said seriously. Lu Yuan was speechless. Was 3 months of friendship really not worth mentioning in the face of love between a man and a woman? I'm lying to you. Although I don't want to admit it, there's been no news of Tang Chun for so many years. I'm afraid that he's already dead. Even if you want to kill him, you won't be able to find him. Furthermore, I don't have much time left. Why do I care so much? Pasizi shook her head and said plainly. The ninth test of a sea god was the date of her death. Regardless of whether Tang Chun was dead or alive, she would never see him again. Huh. It seems that Tang Chun can't be compared to the sea god in your heart after all. Lu Yuan snorted and laughed softly. Pasizi may love Tang Chun, but her love for Tang Chun was definitely not as great as her belief in the sea god. This was very clear when she didn't leave with Tang Chun back then. For the inheritance of the sea god, even if she had lost news of Tang Chun for decades, she could still sit still. She asked herself, if it were him, let alone decades, if any of the women like Qian Rinxue and Bibi Dong went missing for more than a day, he would be burning with anxiety. You can't blame others for not getting love. There's something wrong with you too. You believe in the sea god so much. If one day the sea god asks you to seduce others or even offer your body, you'll do it too. Lu Yuan said plainly. Maybe. Pasizi hesitated for a moment and said softly. You temper servants are really sad. You're like this, and so is Sindoryu. Why do you believe in others? I only believe in myself. Hearing Pasizi's words, Lu Yuan shook his head and then walked down the mountain. Only Pasizi was left in place, staring at Lu Yuan's back in a daze. Chapter 946. At the foot of the sea god's mountain, Lu Yuan and the others were standing tall. It was already noon, and everyone was sitting in a circle, enjoying the delicacies delivered by the sea god's island's attendants. The food on the sea god's island was naturally very oceanic. All kinds of seafood were processed very well, and the taste was very delicious. Lu Yuan casually ate some and stopped after tasting it. The food on the island was very delicious, but he was a little tired of it after eating it for 3 months. Now that his body was getting stronger and stronger, and he was getting closer to the divine body, his need for food was not as big as before. If he completely broke through the divine body one day, he would be able to live on the spiritual energy of heaven and earth, just like Guyuna now. She actually didn't need to eat. She only ate to satisfy her appetite. Nana, you've broken through rank 70, right? Lu Yuan picked up a tissue and wiped his mouth as he looked at Hulina. I've broken through. Senior Pasizi also gave me a god-bestowed soul ring, but I didn't absorb it. Hulina said softly. Then keep it for now. Save it for your 8th soul ring. I've already prepared your 7th soul ring for you. Lu Yuan said gently. You've prepared it? Hulina looked at Lu Yuan doubtfully. When did he prepare it? He seems to have been with me for the past few days. Did he prepare it before coming to the sea god's island? Are you very doubtful? You'll find out later. Hurry up and eat. I'll show it to you after you're done. Lu Yuan smiled. Oh. Hulina nodded and increased her speed. Zhu Zhuqing and Ning Rongrong looked at each other and saw the curiosity in each other's eyes. They also wanted to know what kind of soul ring Lu Yuan had prepared for Hulina. After eating and drinking to their fill, Evil Moon and the others entered the sea god's light again to cultivate. Lu Yuan brought Hulina to the side. Zhu Zhuqing and Ning Rongrong quietly followed behind the two of them. After finding a secluded place, Lu Yuan waved his hand and a snow-white fox appeared in front of them. It was more than 10 meters tall, and its snow-white fur was pure white without any impurities. Its eyes were a noble blue, and there were 8 snow-white fox tails swaying behind it. What soul beast is this? Hulina was stunned at first glance. She could clearly feel that this fox was very suitable for her. Furthermore, an 8-tailed fox soul beast was considered a very high-level existence, second only to a 9-tailed fox soul beast. This soul beast was a perfect match for her, and was more suitable for her than a god-bestowed soul ring. This is a 100,000-year 8-tailed illusion fox, Lu Yuan said in a low voice. 100,000-year soul beast. Hulina blinked her large eyes, and her expression was exceptionally cute. Obuchi actually prepared a 100,000-year soul beast for her. Yes, I prepared 100,000-year radiant unicorn for share, so the one for you naturally can't be worse than hers. I hope that both of you can achieve 100,000-year seventh ring. Lu Yuan smiled and said softly, 100,000-year seventh ring. Hearing Lu Yuan's words, Hulina didn't have much of a reaction. She was just a little touched. After all, if she absorbed a god-bestowed soul ring now, it would be enough for her to reach the 100,000-year level. On the other hand, Zhu Zhuqing and Ning Rongrong were a little shaken because Lu Yuan's words didn't only refer to Chihiro Snow and Hulina, but also the two of them. They were able to tell that. As for Zhu Zhuqing, her physique was already strong, and with the tempering of the sea god's light, it wouldn't be a problem for her to reach the 100,000-year level with a god-bestowed soul ring after reaching the seventh ring. However, Ning Rongrong's problem was very big. If there were no accidents, and she didn't have any fortuitous encounters, Ning Rongrong would be thankful if she could obtain a 100,000-year soul ring from her eighth ring. Her current talent was clearly lacking compared to the others by a large margin. Don't worry, I have a way to help you. Lu Yuan turned around and looked at Zhu Zhuqing and Hulina as he spoke with a smile. Yes. Hearing Lu Yuan's words, the two of them couldn't help but nod at the same time. They naturally believed in Lu Yuan. Lu Yuan smiled and turned around. He pointed at the eight-tailed illusionary fox and said, "The sacrifice can begin now." As he spoke, Lu Yuan pulled Zhu Zhuqing and Ning Rongrong and started to retreat. The eight-tailed illusionary fox nodded its head, and its body started to emit a red light. The red light spread and formed a blood-red magnetic field. The sacrifice had begun. Is this the sacrifice? The two of them had never seen a sacrifice before. When they saw this scene, a look of curiosity flashed across their eyes. This is the sacrifice of a 100,000-year soul beast. It can allow the absorber to perfectly absorb the 100,000-year soul beast's energy. Even if the absorber's body can't withstand the 100,000-year soul ring, they can still fuse with it perfectly. Lu Yuan's eyes flashed. Unlike Zhu Zhuqing and Ning Rongrong, this was already Lu Yuan's third time seeing a sacrifice. He was already very familiar with it. Absorbing a 100,000-year soul ring might take a long time, but the speed of the sacrifice was relatively fast. In less than 2 hours, Hulina had completely absorbed the soul ring. The nine-tailed celestial fox was attached to Hulina's body. Her 7 soul rings, yellow, purple, black, and red, shone brightly. Her cultivation rose to rank 74, and her spiritual power also increased tremendously. The eight-tailed illusionary fox's soul bone was a right arm bone. It also directly entered Hulina's right arm. Right now, Hulina had the illusory, demonic fox skull, the 1,000-kilogram ant emperor torso bone, the 100,000-year radiant unicorn left arm bone, the external foxtail, soul bone, and the 100,000-year eight-tailed illusionary fox right arm bone. This meant that she was only missing the left and right leg bones. Even Lu Yuan was still short of the torso bone and the left and right leg bone to complete his soul bone. Of course, Lu Yuan still had more soul bones. After all, Lu Yuan already had 5 external soul bones, so there was no way they could compete with him. How do you feel? Lu Yuan smiled as he watched Hulina open her eyes. Of course, it's very good. I feel that my strength has increased by a lot. Hulina said, "That's natural. Martial soul true body is the most important skill for all soul masters. It's even more important than their 9th soul skill. Your 9-tailed celestial fox is a superb martial soul. Now that you've become a soul sage, your strength will naturally increase tremendously. Furthermore, you should have awakened your innate domain." Lu Yuan smiled as he spoke. "I knew I couldn't hide anything from you. My innate domain is called the Celestial Fox Domain. The spiritual power of all soul masters in my domain will be reduced by 20%, and my own spiritual power will be increased by 20%. I can also create a celestial fox illusion. Anyone whose spiritual power is weaker than mine won't be able to escape." Hulina smiled as she spoke. She was very satisfied with her domain skill. Chapter 9:47. Oh, that doesn't sound too bad. This is equivalent to a 40% increase in spiritual power. Coupled with the effects of the killing god domain, your fighting strength can't be underestimated. I'm afraid you can fight a tidal Douluo. Lu Yuan chuckled. With a transcendent martial soul, 100,000-year soul ring, 2 domains, and 5 soul bones, Hulina definitely had the fighting strength of a tidal Douluo now. I wonder who's stronger, Elder Douluo or the current Nana. Lu Yuan stroked his chin and muttered to himself. As the standard to measure the fighting strength of a tidal Douluo, Douluo was undoubtedly very representative. If Douluo had been at rank 91, he definitely wouldn't have been able to defeat Hulina. However, Douluo was now at rank 94, which was 20 ranks higher than Hulina. Even if Douluo's attacking strength wasn't very strong, the difference in soul power was too great. Lu Yuan didn't dare to say that Hulina would definitely win. You should be very happy that you've broken through, right? Are your hands itching? Why don't we spar? Let me see your current strength. Lu Yuan regained his senses and turned to Hulina. He rolled his eyes and asked with a smile. No. Hulina rejected him without hesitation. What do you mean by exchanging pointers? You just want to bully me. Stinky Yuan, can you be a human? Hulina glared at Lu Yuan with her big pink eyes and snapped. She was sure that Lu Yuan was up to no good again. I didn't expect you to think of me that way. I really just want to spar with you. Lu Yuan sighed and said, I don't believe you. You just want to bully me. Hulina pouted coquettishly. Why doesn't anyone believe the truth these days? Furthermore, if I want to bully you, do I need to spar with you? Lu Yuan sighed again. His figure flashed and appeared beside Hulina. Then, he carried her on his shoulder. Obuchi, what are you trying to do? Hulina exclaimed. Do you even need to ask? Lu Yuan laughed mischievously. His figure flashed and disappeared in an instant. Zhu Zhuqing and Ning Rongrong were left staring at each other speechlessly. Hulina might have said no, but her body was very honest. The two of them went to Mount Wu together and made love several times before they finally stopped. Obuchi. Hulina lay on top of Lu Yuan and looked at him with her charming eyes. What's wrong? Do you still want more? Lu Yuan asked with a smile. What nonsense are you talking about? I'm not you. I'll get tired. I'm not like you. You don't even know what fatigue is. Hulina said in annoyance. Then what do you want to say? Lu Yuan smiled faintly and asked, Why don't you bring Zhuqing and the others too? Wouldn't that be better? Hulina asked. They need to cultivate. Cultivating for a while is good. You don't need it. You're already qualified to pass the test. Lu Yuan said softly. Indeed, 100,000-year soul ring is indeed extraordinary. My physique has strengthened a lot. I should be able to climb to the 310th step now. Hulina said sweetly. Yes, otherwise I wouldn't have touched you. It's because it doesn't affect you that I did it. Lu Yuan spread out his hands and said, you must have been lonely these 3 months, right? Hulina giggled. What do you think? There isn't even a building in the ring-shaped sea. I ran over 100 miles today to find a room. Don't you think it was difficult? Lu Yuan said helplessly. Puchi. Looking at Lu Yuan's helpless expression, Hulina burst into laughter. Her smile was bright and charming. Lu Yuan embraced Hulina's delicate body and gently smelled the fragrance of Hulina's hair. He said softly, I'll accompany you for a while these few days. I'm afraid I won't have time to accompany you for a while. What's wrong? Do you have something to do now? Hulina raised her head and looked at Lu Yuan in confusion. The Ice and Fire Dragon King's wings have been completely digested. I'm going to cast my divine body. Lu Yuan said softly. Cast your divine body? Hulina opened her mouth slightly. Yes, casting your divine body is destined to take a long time. It will take at least 3 months or even half a year, so you can only do it by yourself. Lu Yuan said softly. I'm not alone. There's still Zhuqing and the others. You can rest assured and cast your divine body. Don't worry too much about me. Strength is the most important. Hulina said seriously. Looking at Hulina's expression, Lu Yuan sighed and hugged her tightly. With a wife like this, what more can a husband ask for? My Nana is really sensible. At the foot of the sea god's mountain, Lu Yuan sat quietly with his legs crossed. The five-clawed golden dragon, King Martial Soul, was already in his body. 6 red and 1 gold soul rings shone with dazzling light. Lu Yuan's body shone with a golden light and emitted an extremely terrifying pressure. "It's starting," Lu Yuan muttered softly. He closed his eyes slightly, and a wave of clear energy directly broke through the energy sealed in the golden dragon right arm bone. Immediately, the bright golden dragon's divine power surged out. With a thought, Lu Yuan's clear energy scripture soul power rushed out and quickly refined this energy. Then he guided it to his limbs and bones. In an instant, Lu Yuan's body began to emit a bright golden light. A holy radiance pervaded the air, and a dragon's roar sounded. A terrifying, formless power formed a whirlwind that spun above Lu Yuan's head and made a woo-woo sound. What a powerful energy fluctuation! Hu Lina, Zhu Zhuqing, and the others were far away and closely watching Lu Yuan's movements. After all, Lu Yuan wanted to cast his divine body. How could they not be curious? This wasn't a demigod body or a false god body. This was a true divine body. This energy fluctuation is indeed very strong. According to the strength of this energy, it might really be able to help Sir break through his divine body. Surprisingly, the deep-sea monster whale king was also present. Being controlled by Lu Yuan's clear energy, he couldn't attack Lu Yuan. Otherwise, the restriction in his mind would instantly take his life. It was also because of this that Lu Yuan felt at ease leaving him here. Moreover, after knowing that soul beasts couldn't become gods, the deep-sea monster whale king didn't have any evil thoughts in his mind. Now, he wholeheartedly wanted to sacrifice himself and obtain eternal life. This had already become his new pursuit. Good boy, you're actually hiding such a powerful force in your body. On the other side of the ring-shaped sea, where Zhu Zhuqing and the others couldn't see, Pasizi's figure quietly appeared. If you succeed in casting your divine body as a soul sage, you will be the first person in all of history. Why do you need to believe in others? You only need to believe in yourself. You are worthy of this sentence. Pasizi softly muttered to himself. His beautiful blue eyes flickered slightly as he looked at Lu Yuan with admiration. Chapter 948. Dragon roars rang out as the five-clawed golden dragon king hovered behind Lu Yuan. Its dragon wings flapped as it exuded a terrifying aura. A golden light so dense that it almost materialized radiated from Lu Yuan's body, wrapping him tightly within. This was the divine power of the second-generation golden dragon. The second-generation golden dragon was a Class 1 god, so its divine power was naturally domineering and ferocious. Although the portion of divine power in Lu Yuan's body was only 20% of the God Core's divine power that had been lost, it was only slightly more than 10% of a complete God Core. However, the energy it contained was definitely much stronger than an ordinary million-year soul ring. Even if a million-year soul beast became a god, it would only be a Class 3 god. There was a huge gap between it and a Class 1 god. It could be said that the deep-sea devil whale king's soul ring was definitely inferior to the portion of energy sealed in Lu Yuan's golden dragon right arm bone. Of course, this only referred to the energy within the soul ring. The soul ring contained the most origin energy of a soul beast, and most of a soul beast's energy was still within its body. For example, if the deep-sea devil whale king died, the million-year soul energy within its body couldn't be underestimated, aside from the origin energy within its soul ring. Although its quality was slightly inferior, its quantity was extremely high. Another example was the water and fire dragon kings. After they died, their divine cores were completely undamaged. Just the energy within their dragon corpses alone was enough to form the renowned ice-fire yin-yang well, which was a testament to how powerful they were. Another example was the sky dream ice worm. Even if it died and its soul ring was absorbed, The energy within its corpse would still be enough for the soul beasts in the great star Douluo forest to absorb for a long time. But even so, the most precious thing was still the source energy. Sometimes, quality was more important than quantity. The golden dragon's origin energy continuously surged out of the golden dragon right arm bone before it was frantically devoured by Lu Yuan's bones and flesh. The amount of energy required to evolve from a pseudo-god's body to a god's body was incomparably huge. At this moment, Lu Yuan was about to undergo a metamorphosis. His body seemed to have turned into a bottomless pit. No matter how thick and overbearing the divine origin power of the second-generation golden dragon was, he did not reject it and absorbed it all. All the cells in his body seemed to be screaming crazily as they greedily devoured the energy. This terrifying rate of energy absorption left Lu Yuan dumbfounded. At this rate, even if I devour all of the second-generation golden dragon's remaining energy, I'll only be able to complete my metamorphosis. Looks like I've underestimated the powerful physique of the five-clawed golden dragon king. But I can't just complete my metamorphosis. I have to forge the foundation of the most powerful divine body. As Lu Yuan thought about it, his mind moved and his spiritual force entered his sea of consciousness. On the golden beach, the dragon kings of water and fire were lying down leisurely, enjoying the refreshing white light of the divine seed with a satisfied look on their faces. Their souls had become a lot more solid, and they no longer had that illusory feeling. Instead, they were becoming more and more substantial. The remaining Titan giant apes on the beach were completely reduced to little brothers that were ordered around by the two dragon kings. "Little monkey, come massage my legs." The fire dragon king flipped its body and stretched out its thick dragon leg. Hearing the call, the Titan giant ape ran over and hammered the fire dragon king's legs with its mill-sized fists. Lu Yuan, who had just entered, was dumbfounded by the sight. Is this still the Titan giant ape, the king of the forest? Isn't this a little too pitiful? "Hey kid, how come you have time to come here? Aren't you in the middle of metamorphosing your divine body?" Looking at Lu Yuan, the water dragon king made a sound of surprise and asked with some confusion. "I underestimated my physique. The remaining energy of the second-generation golden dragon might not be enough. I want you to extract some energy from the divine core of water and fire to help me break through," Lu Yuan said in a serious tone. "Is that so? It's just a small matter. Leave it to us," the water dragon king said. "Then I'll have to trouble the two of you. I have to go back first," Lu Yuan said as his figure disappeared from the sea of consciousness. He began to control the energy in his body again. In the sea of consciousness, the water dragon king stood up from the beach and said to the fire dragon king, "Do it, little fire. Business is more important." "Okay." The fire dragon king nodded and waved his hand to get the Titan giant ape to stand aside with the water dragon king. The fire dragon king looked at the water dragon king and asked, "How much energy do we need?" "1/10 should be enough," the water dragon king said. "1/10 then." The fire dragon king nodded and pointed with his finger. A stream of reddish gold energy surged out of the divine core of the fire dragon king and entered Lu Yuan's body. The water dragon king also moved his hand and 1/10 of his energy surged out. The blue gold energy entered Lu Yuan's body. "It's coming." Feeling the hot and cold energy, Lu Yuan muttered to himself. With a thought, he guided the gold dragon's divine powers forward. With the gold dragon's divine powers as the foundation, he completely merged the fire dragon king and the water dragon king's divine powers together. Then, he controlled the strange energy to flow throughout his body. Outside, the reddish gold, blue gold, and golden energies merged together to form a light shield that completely enveloped Lu Yuan. As for Lu Yuan himself, he began to transform within the light shroud. Just as Lu Yuan had said, the forging of a divine body was not done in a day and night. It took a lot of time. Unknowingly, half a year's time had quietly slipped away. Where Lu Yuan was, the three-colored light shield was still there, emitting a thick divine aura. It's been half a year. Why hasn't Obuchi done anything? At the foot of the mountain, Hulina sat on the steps. She rested her chin on her hand and stared at the giant three-colored light shield. She hadn't seen Lu Yuan in half a year. She really missed him. Yeah, there's no movement at all. I'm so worried. Ning Rongrong's icy blue eyes were filled with worry as she spoke softly. Don't worry. It's fine. This won't be a problem for him. The divine body is extraordinary. After all, it will take a long time to transform. Zhu Zhuqing's cold voice sounded. However, even though she said that, her big eyes were filled with worry. What three good girls? This little bastard is so lucky. But it's been so long. It should be about time. I can feel that the movement inside the light shield has calmed down. In an inconspicuous place, Pasizi stood quietly and looked at Lu Yuan. Her beautiful blue eyes flashed. As soon as Pasizi finished speaking, the light shield that shone with reddish gold, blue gold, and golden light suddenly exploded. An extremely powerful energy suddenly spread out. Chapter 949. Boom! A loud sound rang out, and the huge tricolored light barrier that enveloped Lu Yuan instantly exploded, turning into energy light spots that filled the sky. At the same time, a bright golden pillar of light rose from Lu Yuan's body and shot into the clouds. A terrifying aura that was above all living beings emanated from Lu Yuan's body. Gulp! Ning Rongrong swallowed her saliva from distance. The aura that came from Lu Yuan's body made her heart tremble, and she couldn't help but have the urge to crawl. Rongrong, retreat further. Zhu Zhuqing also felt very uncomfortable, even more so than Ning Rongrong. This was because she had a beast martial soul, and she was being suppressed by Lu Yuan. She pulled Ning Rongrong and retreated into the light of the sea god. With the protection of the light of the sea god, they were finally able to block Lu Yuan's aura. Hulina and the others were also standing beside them, and everyone's eyes were fixed on Lu Yuan. What a terrifying aura. I even feel that this is only the first wave, and there will be even stronger auras coming from behind. Is this the divine body? Ning Rongrong couldn't help but ask as she looked at Lu Yuan. The divine body, the divine body. It's a physique that only gods can have. It's naturally very extraordinary, and it's not something that ordinary soul masters can imagine. Obuchi has undergone a huge transformation this time. Hulina exclaimed. It took him half a year just to transform. How can it be ordinary? Furthermore, Obuchi's physique isn't as simple as an ordinary divine body. Zhu Zhuqing's big, lively eyes blinked gently, and they were filled with the radiance of wisdom. Is this the divine body? It's really tyrannical. Pasizi's eyes trembled as she felt the imposing pillar of light that shot into the sky. Lu Yuan was the first person she had seen who had forged a divine body before becoming a god. Furthermore, Lu Yuan was only 17 years old, and he was already a rank 80 soul sage. This record was definitely unprecedented. The successor of the God King is truly extraordinary. Compared to you, the rest of us are truly nothing. Pasizi sighed lightly, and then his gaze turned slightly as he recalled the bold words Lu Yuan spoke that day. Indeed, how could a person with such boldness and natural talent believe in another? Because such a person could be invincible on his own. Even though he admired the sea god, Pasizi had to admit that perhaps the sea god's talent was not as good as the young man in front of him. As for Tang Chun, he was far from it. As for Sindoryu, there was no need to even mention him. There was no comparison. How could a heaven's favorite like you appear in this world? This is unbelievable. Pasizi murmured as her beautiful blue eyes stared intently at Lu Yuan. At the foot of the sea god's mountain, Lu Yuan's tightly shut eyes suddenly opened, and two rays of golden light shot out from them. It was also at this moment that Lu Yuan's aura reached its peak. He had surpassed the limit, surpassed the demigod realm, and reached a whole new level. Sensing the power in his body, Lu Yuan frowned slightly and muttered to himself, "Is this the strength of a false god? No, perhaps it's a little stronger than ordinary false gods." It's very difficult for a false god's attack to hurt my divine body. Lu Yuan said softly, and the corners of his mouth curled into a smile. 1/10 of the Water Dragon King's origin god power, 1/10 of the Fire Dragon King's origin god power, and slightly more than 1/10 of the second-generation Golden Dragon's origin god power. Lu Yuan could have directly forged a rank 2 divine body, but in order to better stabilize his foundation, Lu Yuan forcefully suppressed it to the pinnacle of rank 3 divine body. Even so, the strength of his physique was definitely not inferior to ordinary rank 2 gods. With such a powerful physique, even if he were to stand there and allow a limit Douluo to attack him, they wouldn't be able to hurt him in the slightest. Even a demigod would be in trouble if they didn't possess a divine weapon. As for the ability to pierce through the heart with a hidden weapon, that was something that would only happen in a dream. As for false gods, if they were to unleash their full power, they would be able to inflict some minor injuries on him. After all, false gods were already very powerful. For example, Atlas the Yinming was a true freak who had become a limit Douluo at the age of 35, and not even the average third-tier god would be a match for him. He hadn't used any hacks and had relied on his own hard work to create a demigod. Compared to him, Tangchun and Sendoryu were all trash. Lu Yuan's rank 3 divine body was indeed very powerful, and it was comparable to a rank 2 divine body in terms of strength. But if he were to encounter someone like Yin Ming, there was a very good chance that it would be destroyed. Of course, that was only if he didn't defend himself. Lu Yuan wasn't a dead man who could just stand there and let others attack him. On the contrary, Lu Yuan's offensive prowess was far superior to his defensive prowess. The god-slaying spear was unstoppable, and in his current state, Lu Yuan dared to say that even a god wouldn't be able to stop it. If he were to summon a divine adjudicator, Lu Yuan would be able to send them to the afterlife with a single spear strike. The god-slaying spear was already very powerful, and the more powerful Lu Yuan became, the more power it would be able to unleash. If Lu Yuan's current power was comparable to a god of the first tier, then even if the god-slaying spear couldn't kill a god king with a single strike, it would still be able to severely wound him. Furthermore, that was only if the god-slaying spear didn't have a soul ring. If the god-slaying spear were to be enhanced with a soul ring, then its power would definitely be enhanced even further. It went without saying that the god-slaying spear was just that powerful. Lu Yuan clenched his fists, and the sound of bones cracking and popping rang out from all over his body. Within his body, golden blood was flowing. Originally, Lu Yuan's blood was red, but after he had completely transformed into a divine body, the blood in his body had completely turned golden. Not only his blood, but even his bones and meridians had completely turned golden. Golden was the color that belonged to the divine realm. The fact that all of his bones, blood, and meridians had been completely dyed golden was a sign that he had transformed into a divine body. My current power has already reached an unimaginable level. Lu Yuan casually waved his hand, and there was an explosion in the air. His power was so great that it was enough to shatter space. As the saying went, power could break the void. When one's power reached an extremely high level, no matter what it would be completely shattered into pieces. Power could break all laws. This wasn't just a saying, but an undeniable fact. Feeling the surging power in his body, Lu Yuan's gaze focused slightly. He had just broken through, and now he wanted to test his own power. Lu Yuan's figure moved, and he directly swept towards the location of Neptune's light. Is he trying to break through? Seeing Lu Yuan rush out, Pasizi's expression changed, and his figure suddenly disappeared from the spot. Obuchi, seeing Lu Yuan appear in front of them, Hulina, Zhu Zhuqing, Ning Rongrong, and the others all rushed over at the same time. If you have something to say, say it later. Watch me break through for you guys. Looking at the top of Neptune's mountain, Lu Yuan said with a chuckle. Chapter 950. Good luck. Ning Rongrong clenched her little fists as she cheered him on. Good luck. Everyone cheered in unison. Don't worry, I will. Just wait and see how I conquer this sea god's light. Lu Yuan pinched Ning Rongrong's little cheek before transforming into a streak of golden light that flew directly through the sea god's light. Moments later, Lu Yuan reached the 900th step. The aura of a limit Douluo is nothing compared to this. Lu Yuan chuckled softly, and his figure flew again. Limit intermediate, high peak. Lu Yuan did not seem to feel any pressure at all. He directly stepped into the domain of the demigod's aura and soon reached the 999th step. Lu Yuan strode onto the 1000th step, and the terrifying aura of a demigod weighed down upon him. But Lu Yuan remained completely unaffected. Most importantly, Lu Yuan hadn't even released his martial soul. As expected of a divine body, it really is insanely powerful. Pasizi was standing less than a meter away from Lu Yuan. Pasizi was slightly shorter than Lu Yuan, and as they stood on the steps, the two of them were essentially at the same level. She was appraising Lu Yuan with an astonished look in her blue eyes. Sensing the aura was one thing, but witnessing it in person was another. His divine body was far more powerful than she had imagined. After all, in the past, Lu Yuan had only been able to move freely on the 1000th step after releasing his martial soul, golden dragon armor, and water fire dragon king soul bones. But now, Lu Yuan's physical constitution had been enhanced significantly, and he was completely unaffected by the aura of a demigod. It had to be said that this was a little terrifying. As expected, there was a massive disparity between mortals and gods. Demigods and demigods were still far inferior to true gods, and it was very difficult for them to battle beings of a higher cultivation base. After all, there had only been one Atlas Douluo in the past tens of thousands of years. Is he very powerful? I don't think so. Lu Yuan chuckled at the sight of the astonishment in Pasizi's eyes. Don't try to play dumb. I know what kind of person you are. Pasizi rolled her eyes at Lu Yuan upon hearing Lu Yuan's words. It was obvious that this brat was overjoyed, but he still acted as if he wasn't very satisfied. It seemed that he was really hateful. Pasizi was truly offended. A faint smile appeared on Lu Yuan's face upon hearing Pasizi's words. It appeared that this woman knew him quite a bit. With a thought, Lu Yuan rolled his eyes and smirked. His gaze fell on by Saishi's face as he sized him up. What are you looking at? Pasizi couldn't help but scold Lu Yuan in a low voice. No one had ever dared to look at her in such an impudent manner. You were quite beautiful when you rolled your eyes at me just now. A beauty with a hint of annoyance in her eyes is quite charming. Lu Yuan chuckled. Pasizi was a beauty on the same level as Bibi Dawn, so she was naturally extremely beautiful. Lu Yuan's words weren't false, nor were they flattering. They were the truth. You're trying to make me happy again? But even if I'm beautiful, that's no reason for you to look at me so frivolously. Pasizi feigned indifference. Oh, is that so? But I'm still looking at you. What can you do to me? Lu Yuan continued to stare at her as he spoke. Hee, you'll know what cruelty is in the second test. Pasizi sneered. Is that so? That really scared me to death. However, I'm not belittling you, but the current you is really not enough. If the sea god doesn't strengthen you in the second test, just wait for me to beat you up. Don't think that I'll show mercy just because you're beautiful. No matter how beautiful you are, it won't change the fact that you're almost 200 years old. I like to bully old people the most. Lu Yuan chuckled. Creak. As soon as he said that, Pasizi clenched her fists tightly, gritted her teeth, and her chest heaved up and down rapidly. Her beautiful blue eyes were burning with raging flames. How could there be such a hateful brat in the world? Pasizi swore that she had never wanted to beat someone so much in her life. She really wanted to drag Lu Yuan to the side and beat him up. It would be best if she beat him half to death to vent the hatred in her heart. How dared he call her an old person? Is this brat courting death? Doesn't he know that a woman's age is a taboo topic? Pasizi thought as she glared at Lu Yuan with raging flames in her eyes. The graceful and tranquil temperament that she had cultivated for many years had long disappeared after meeting Lu Yuan. Lu Yuan's casual words were enough to provoke a change in her emotions. It had to be said that Lu Yuan was really good at provoking other people's emotions. Why are you glaring at me? Also, why are you grinding your teeth? If you want to bite me, tell me in advance that I have a divine body. Don't break your teeth. Lu Yuan said softly. Has anyone ever told you that you're really despicable? Pasizi's tone was slightly cold as the words came out from between her teeth. Lu Yuan rubbed his chin and said with a serious expression, Well, that seems to be quite a lot. Pasizi, so despicable people are invincible? How could he say such words with such a serious expression? I've really never seen someone as shameless as you. Pasizi said coldly as she looked at Lu Yuan. Thank you for the compliment. I've always been proud of being shameless. Your compliment has given me the motivation to persevere, Lu Yuan said with a smile. Pasizi, speechless. This time she was really speechless. Such a shameless person was really rare in the world. His talent was unparalleled in the world, but his shamelessness was definitely not to be outdone. A freak was a freak, not like a normal person at all. Looking at Pasizi's speechless expression, Lu Yuan couldn't help but smile slightly. Needless to say, it was really quite interesting to see the calm and graceful Pasizi's speechless expression. Perhaps Sindoryu and the others had never seen Pasizi like this. However, joking was just joking. In the end, business was more important. Cough, cough. Old beauty in front of me. Can you move aside a little? Don't block my way. I'm going to continue forward. Lu Yuan coughed and said, Old beauty. Another bolt of lightning fell on Pasizi's head. A beauty is a beauty. Why did you add the word old? I won't move. Pasizi sneered as a cold light flashed in her eyes. If you don't move, then I'll change positions. A good man doesn't fight with a woman. Lu Yuan sighed and stepped to the side. The aura on his body surged and golden light filled the air. The five-clawed golden dragon, King Martial Soul, was immediately attached to his body. At the same time, the golden dragon battle armor was directly put on his body. Chapter 9:51. The dazzling golden dragon armor emitted a dazzling light, and the golden cape behind him fluttered in the wind. The gorgeous armor made Lu Yuan look extraordinary. With another thought, the fire and water dragon king's wings were released. The red, gold, and blue dragon wings flapped behind Lu Yuan. At the same time, the golden dragon domain and killing god domain were fully activated. Lu Yuan also held the Dragon Emperor Draining Spring Spear in his hand. It could be said that apart from the demigod armor, Lu Yuan had basically gone all out. Let me give you a friendly reminder. The pressure on the 1001st floor has entered the divine level. It's a real divine level, so you'd better be careful. Otherwise, even if you have a divine body, I'm afraid you'll suffer. Just as Lu Yuan lifted his foot and was about to step in, Pasizi's cold voice rang in Lu Yuan's ears. Are you concerned about me? It seems like we're still friends, Lu Yuan said with a faint smile. You're thinking too much. I'm just afraid that you won't be able to pass the first round and lose your life. Then, the second round won't be able to proceed, and I won't be able to beat you up. Who would be friends with a shameless person like you? Pasizi said coldly. She was still angry after being teased by Lu Yuan. Pasizi had never been called that in her life. Old beauty, to think that this little rascal could say that. All right, it's fine if you don't admit it. However, I'll remember this favor. When the sea god's 9th trial comes, I'll save your life. How about it? Are you touched? Lu Yuan asked with a faint smile. You'd better solve your own problem first. You even saved my life. Pasizi said indifferently. Her expression was still cold, but her heart was warm. Regardless of whether Lu Yuan was telling the truth or not, she felt his concern. Then I'll show you how I reach the top. Lu Yuan chuckled. Then, her expression became serious, and her eyes were firm and sharp. Lu Yuan's bloodline and soul power were circulating crazily. He directly stepped onto the 1001st floor. Boom! In an instant, a terrifying explosion rang out in Lu Yuan's mind, as if a star had exploded. The terrifying pressure of a god-grade entity pressed down on Lu Yuan's body. Immediately, The sound of bones cracking could be heard from Lu Yuan's body. His entire body was suppressed by a huge force, and his body was slightly bent. You want to suppress me with just the light of a sea god? Lu Yuan roared as the power of his divine body burst forth. Streams of golden blood, energy, surged out from his body. Lu Yuan could even hear the sound of blood gushing out from his body like a great river. Rise! Lu Yuan roared. He pointed the Dragon Emperor draining spring spear to the ground. His body, which was originally somewhat bent, slowly straightened up. The golden light of the sea god pressed down on Lu Yuan's body. It was extremely heavy, but Lu Yuan clenched his teeth and stood straighter and straighter against the huge pressure. The light of the sea god surged crazily from the top of the mountain to the bottom. The entire light of the sea god kept undulating, as if it was slowly being pushed up by Lu Yuan alone. Lu Yuan's strength was evident from how he was able to resist all of the light of the sea god with his own strength. Clang! Like the melodious sound of a zither, Lu Yuan's body suddenly straightened up. He was like a divine spear that stood in the sky, piercing through the sky. At this moment, Lu Yuan's body exuded an indomitable and powerful aura. It made Pasizi's expression change slightly. The moment Lu Yuan stood up, the huge pressure that enveloped him completely vanished. Now that he had passed the test, the light of the sea god would no longer oppress him in the slightest. Lu Yuan was also the first person to cross all of the light of the sea god. Bang! A soft explosion sounded from the trident on Lu Yuan's forehead, as if something had broken. After that, the golden trident seemed to become even brighter. You have completed the first test of the sea god's 3 tests. You are rewarded with a comprehension of the sea god's 13 halberds, and the age of all your soul rings increased by 5,000 years. A loud voice sounded in Lu Yuan's mind. Then, a golden flowing light flew out of the sea god's palace and entered Lu Yuan's mind. Comprehension of the sea god's 13 halberds. Lu Yuan's expression changed slightly as he felt the sudden comprehension in his mind. A complicated look flashed across his eyes. The sea god's gift was too great. The sea god's 13 halberds was the sea god's exclusive ultimate skill. Although this was just a comprehension, it was enough for Lu Yuan to comprehend the entire sea god's 13 halberds. Lu Yuan automatically ignored the 5,000-year increase in his soul ring's lifespan. In the past, a 5,000-year increase in his soul ring's lifespan might have made him happy for a while. However, a 5,000-year increase in his soul ring's lifespan was nothing to him now. Lu Yuan closed his eyes and felt the comprehension of the sea god's 13 halberds in his mind. There was clearly a time limit for this comprehension. Once time passed, it would disappear. Hence, he couldn't let such a good opportunity go to waste. Halberd shadows flashed in Lu Yuan's mind. The blue sea was connected to the sky, and the waves were turbulent. As time passed, a special concept rose from Lu Yuan's body. It was as vast and boundless as the sea, encompassing all things. The waves were monstrous, and the concept was endless. It was the concept of the vast sea, the aura of the sea. Is this a gift from the sea god? Furthermore, this kid actually comprehended the sea god's 13 halberds. Pasizi's beautiful blue eyes flickered. To be honest, the fact that the sea god passed the sea god's 13 halberds to Lu Yuan greatly exceeded her expectations. This was the sea god's most famous consummate skill. It was actually passed down to someone who wasn't the sea god's successor. Even she couldn't help but sigh. The sea god really valued Lu Yuan too much. Furthermore, what surprised her the most was that Lu Yuan actually comprehended the sea god's 13 halberds in such a short period of time. This kid's talent is really worthy of praise. However, it would be great if he could be a little more serious. Pasizi looked at Lu Yuan and said softly. Conversing with Lu Yuan was actually very easy. The only bad thing was that this kid always liked to joke around. Sometimes, when he teased her with a few sentences, it could simply infuriate her to death. She had always thought that her self-control skills were quite good. However, when she met Lu Yuan, no matter how good her self-control skills were, they all turned into nothingness. Am I that indecent? Lu Yuan gently opened his eyes as a faint chuckle was heard. He had basically completely digested the comprehension of the sea god's 13 halberds. He had also comprehended the entire set of the sea god's 13 halberds. Of course, he had only comprehended it. Using it wasn't a problem. However, if he wanted to display its power, Lu Yuan would need to practice more. After all, the sea god's 13 halberds was a relatively high-level halberd technique. Chapter 952. Don't you know if you're serious or not? Pasizi rolled her eyes at Lu Yuan and said faintly after listening to Lu Yuan's words, I don't know. I think I'm very serious. Lu Yuan shook his head and said in a serious tone, Bah, shameless little sly guy. If you're serious, then there's no one in the world who's not serious. Pasizi scolded in a low voice. Oh, I don't agree with what you said. How am I not serious? I didn't flirt with you, and I didn't take advantage of you. How am I not serious? Didn't I just call you an old beauty? You're almost 200 years old. Aren't you old? You're so beautiful. You're a typical beauty. Put together, you're an old beauty. That's right. Lu Yuan shrugged and said with an innocent look on his face. You. When Lu Yuan said that and saw Lu Yuan's innocent expression, Pasizi suddenly became angry. She glared at Lu Yuan with anger in her eyes. Not bad. You're still pretty when you're angry. Fair skin, beautiful face, bright eyes, and white teeth. Pasizi, the daughter of the sea, you really live up to your reputation. It's a pity that you're a little old. Lu Yuan acted as if he did not notice by Saishi's angry gaze. He continued to comment on his own, and at the end, he said that it was a pity that Saishi was too old. This completely provoked Pasizi's anger. Although Pasizi often said that she was a little old, she couldn't accept it if someone else said it. Bibidon always said that she was old, but if Lu Yuan also said that she was old, she would fight Lu Yuan to the death. I think you're looking for a beating. Pasizi frowned and clenched her teeth. She raised her hand and slapped Lu Yuan. With a casual slap of her hand, the air exploded, and a terrifying invisible force instantly attacked Lu Yuan. However, Lu Yuan acted as if he didn't see it and allowed the palm energy to land on his body. He didn't even blink as his body moved and grabbed Pasizi's jade hand. Why didn't you dodge? Pasizi's anger subsided. Just now, he had used a lot of strength in his attack. Could it be that this brat was seriously injured? There's no need to dodge. Your attack can't hurt me. You're too weak. Lu Yuan sized up Pasizi and said indifferently, Bastard. After being belittled by Lu Yuan, Pasizi's anger rose once again. She forcefully withdrew her hand. She was going to teach this guy a lesson. He actually dared to say that her attack was too weak and couldn't hurt him. However, something awkward happened. Pasizi forcefully withdrew her hand, but it didn't budge. You can use more strength, Lu Yuan said softly. His right hand was still holding Pasizi's jade hand. Let go, Pasizi said coldly. If you don't do it, then I'll let go, Lu Yuan said with a smile. Hearing this, Pasizi was silent for a while and said, Let go. I won't do it. Pasizi's expression was very serious and didn't look like he was lying. Lu Yuan could see this, so he believed him. Lu Yuan loosened his right hand. Pasizi withdrew her jade hand, then took advantage of Lu Yuan's inattention and directly stepped on Lu Yuan's foot. Didn't you say you won't do it? Lu Yuan said helplessly as he felt the huge pressure on his foot. I didn't do it. I did it with my foot. Pasizi glared at Lu Yuan. She raised her snow-white neck, held the golden scepter in her hand, and arrogantly walked into the sea god palace. Is this still the Pasizi I know? Lu Yuan thought to himself. Is this still the graceful and tranquil Pasizi? Why does it feel like she's a proud little woman? Could it be that I've angered her to death? Lu Yuan muttered. Could it be that Pasizi was so angry that she became a little abnormal? That was possible. After all, Pasizi had never been angered like this before. Shaking his head, Lu Yuan walked towards the foot of the mountain. After passing the test, the sea god's light didn't have the slightest pressure on him, so he easily walked down. At the foot of the sea god's mountain, a cauldron was erected. There were flames burning in the cauldron, and Lu Yuan was refining pills. It had been a month since the first test. In this month, Lu Yuan had refined many top-grade meridian opening and bone-tempering pills to help Hulina and the others improve their physiques and refine their meridians. Of course, he had also refined some great rising spiritual pills to increase soul power. Coincidentally, the sea god's light could suppress and refine soul power, and it was absolutely complementary to the great rising spiritual pills. In a month's time, everyone's soul power had increased by 3 ranks, and there weren't any hidden dangers. The terror of an alchemist could be said to be outstanding. After a few transformations, Lu Yuan's spiritual realm had reached the demigod realm, and his pill refining skills had reached an extremely high level. The top-grade pills he refined now could even increase the strength of a titled Douluo. It could be said to be quite terrifying. A high-grade alchemist could support a huge organization, and this wasn't a lie. With Lu Yuan's current pill refining skills, he could raise the strength of the Dragon King Palace and the Martial Soul Palace to another level. The pills that Lu Yuan was preparing to refine today were all the highlights. Apart from the Origin Chaotic pill that had already been refined, the pill in the cauldron was also one of them, and it was called the Form Transformation pill. The Form Transformation pill was undoubtedly a high-grade pill, and it wasn't very difficult to refine. However, the ingredients for it were hard to find. Lu Yuan still asked the Pasizi to search the entire Sea God's Island, and he barely managed to gather 4 sets of ingredients. Because of this, the Pasizi even made things difficult for him. After being angered by Lu Yuan twice, this woman had been holding back her anger. This time, Lu Yuan had fallen into her hands and was mocked by her. When facing Lu Yuan, all of her gracefulness and magnanimity had disappeared. Xiaolan, I've suffered a lot because of you. Lu Yuan sighed softly. His hand seals changed, and the flames in the cauldron also changed. Dang! An invisible wave came out of the cauldron and hit the walls of the cauldron. A tempting pill fragrance came out of the cauldron. It's done. Lu Yuan's mouth revealed a trace of a smile. He waved his hand, and the lid of the cauldron flew to the side. For brilliant and colorful pills rushed out of the cauldron, and the pill fragrance became even stronger. Lu Yuan stretched out his hand, and the 4 pills immediately fell into his hand. Looking at the 4 round and smooth pills in his hand, Lu Yuan could not help but reveal a smile at the corner of his mouth. 4 sets of ingredients, 4 form transformation pills. The current Lu Yuan could refine 4 sets of ingredients at the same time, and all of them were successfully refined. This pill refining level was really high. Chapter 953. Obuchi. Has the pill been successfully refined? Ning Rongrong and the others all gathered around Lu Yuan upon seeing what he was doing. They had all eaten the elixirs that Lu Yuan usually refined. The efficacy of the elixirs was astonishing, and the elixirs that Lu Yuan refined today were obviously even more extraordinary. How could they not be interested? They all wanted to see just how miraculous the pills that Lu Yuan had refined were. I've completed the refinement. Lu Yuan smiled at the sight of Ning Rongrong, and a warm look flashed through his eyes. He waved his hand, and a pill that was shimmering with 9 different colors instantly appeared in Lu Yuan's hand. He gently raised his hand and stuffed the pill into Ning Rongrong's little red mouth. What did you give me, Obuchi? Ning Rongrong didn't struggle at all as Lu Yuan fed her the pill. She blinked her large eyes and looked at Lu Yuan with a curious look on her face. This is a top-tier pill, the Chaotic Origin pill. It can open up all of the meridians in your body and refine your body to forge a chaotic origin immaculate body. Not only will it greatly enhance your soul power, but it will also increase your cultivation speed. The chaotic origin energy imbued within the pill can also be incorporated into your soul power to improve the quality of your soul power. The effects of this pill are far more powerful than the beautiful silk tulip. Even the yearning heartbroken red is far inferior to this pill. With this pill, your 7th soul ring will be able to absorb a 100,000-year soul ring without any issues. It can be said that this is a miraculous pill. It's just that the medicinal ingredients are too hard to find. I've only managed to refine this one. After you consume it and forge a mixed yuan immaculate body, your cultivation speed will increase by at least twofold. It could be considered as making up for the gap between you and Zhu Qing and the others. How is it? Are you satisfied? Lu Yuan asked with a smile. I'm satisfied. I'm very satisfied. Obu Qi, you're so good to me. Ning Rongrong couldn't control herself, and she threw herself into Lu Yuan's arms before planting a kiss on Lu Yuan's cheek. All right, the medicinal power of this primeval chaos pill is very mild. Go take a nap. When you wake up, the medicinal power will naturally be fully absorbed. Lu Yuan gently stroked Ning Rongrong's soft long hair and said softly, All right. Lu Yuan kissed Lu Yuan on the lips again, completely ignoring everyone's gazes. After that, she skipped into her tent at the foot of the Sea God Mountain and slept comfortably. Lu Yuan smiled warmly at Ning Rongrong's actions. This primordial chaos pill had cost him 3 precious immortal herbs, as well as other rare ingredients. In terms of value, it was comparable to a treasure like the life crystal, perhaps even a little more. If Ning Rongrong absorbed it, her soul force would rise from rank 59 to rank 65 at the very least. Furthermore, her foundation would become even more solid, and her foundation would become even more profound. In terms of talent, he was on par with Zhu Qing. He definitely had the potential to become a Tier 1 god. Since he said he wouldn't mistreat Ning Rongrong, then he would naturally do it. Seeing Lu Yuan feed Ning Rongrong such a precious divine pill, the surrounding people became even more curious. The primordial chaos pill was already a rare treasure. So how miraculous would the remaining 4 pills be? The primordial chaos pill is indeed extraordinary. This little rascal's alchemy skills are actually so high. This is truly beyond my expectations. However, I want to see just how miraculous the next pill is. In a remote area, Pasizi stared in Lu Yuan's direction, her blue eyes shining with a strange light. She was becoming more and more interested in Lu Yuan. This little rascal's methods were simply endless. Not only was his strength and talent terrifying, but he also knew how to refine pills. This was truly unexpected. Under everyone's curious gazes, Lu Yuan walked to the circular sea and snapped his fingers. With a snap of his fingers, 3 black shadows swam toward Lu Yuan from the ring-shaped sea. On the left was the deep-sea demon whale, Xiaolan, and on the right were 2 great white demon soul sharks. One was over 80 meters long, and the other was less than 30 meters long. One of them was Xiao Bai and her child. Lu Yuan gave her a name, Xiao Bai, although Xiao Bai had never agreed to this name. Seeing Lu Yuan on the shore, Xiaolan immediately swam over. His head swayed gently, and he let out a happy whine. Little guy, I'll give you something good to eat. Lu Yuan smiled gently and patted Xiaolan's head with his right hand. Hearing Lu Yuan's voice, Xiaolan immediately let out a cry. His big eyes blinked slightly, revealing a hint of confusion. It was as if he was asking Lu Yuan what he was going to give him. Lu Yuan chuckled. With a wave of his right hand, a radiant elixir appeared between his fingers. When this pill appeared, Xiaolan, Xiao Bai, and Xiao Bai trembled at the same time. They felt an instinct from the depths of their bloodline. What is this? I really want to eat it. Xiao Bai said softly. There was a strong desire in his big blue eyes. Form transformation pill. A pill that can allow a soul beast to take human form and have the cultivation speed of a human. Lu Yuan said with a smile. When this was said, everyone was shocked. They all knew that Lu Yuan was refining an extraordinary pill, but they didn't expect this pill to be extraordinary to such an extent. Form transformation pill. Pasizi's expression also froze, and a hint of shock flashed across her eyes. Although it was surprising that it could allow a soul beast to take human form, she could still accept it. However, it could also allow a soul beast to have the cultivation speed of a human. This form transformation pill was a little heaven-defying. The lifespan of a soul beast was already far longer than that of a human. If it could also have the cultivation speed of a human, it would be terrifying. If this pill flowed into the hands of a soul beast, it would be enough to overturn the entire world. The strength of a soul beast would completely surpass that of a human in a very short period of time. It had to be said that Pasizi was Pasizi. Her vision was far more farsighted than the average person. Looks like I'll have to warn this little rascal later. Pasizi thought to herself. Lu Yuan had always known about Pasizi's arrival, but he was too lazy to care. Xiaolan, catch. He pinched the pill and lightly tossed it. Immediately, the brilliant pill flew toward Xiaolan. Xiao Bai's eyes flashed with a hint of desire as it looked at the pill. However, it tried its best to suppress this desire. Xiaolan swallowed the form transformation pill in one gulp. Immediately, Xiaolan's body bloomed with a dazzling light that completely enveloped Xiaolan's body. All boys, turn around. Lu Yuan suddenly thought of something and shouted at the crowd. Then he turned around. Not all soul beasts wore clothes like Gu Yuna. If Xiaolan were transformed, it would most likely be completely naked. Evil Moon and the others didn't know what Lu Yuan meant, but since Lu Yuan had already turned around, they could only follow suit. Chapter 954. Nana, take a set of your clothes and give it to Xiaolan. After she transforms, she should have no clothes. Lu Yuan touched his nose and said softly. As soon as he said that, Evil Moon and the others knew why Lu Yuan asked them to turn around. I know. Listening to Lu Yuan's words, Hulina nodded gently. With a wave of her hand, a set of clothes appeared in her hand. Hulina had always loved gold, white, and pink. The dress she was holding now was white. According to Xiaolan's identity as a deep-sea monster whale, after she transforms, a blue dress should be more suitable for her. However, only Ning Rongrong was wearing a blue dress here, and now Ning Rongrong was sleeping soundly. A white dress was not bad. With Xiaolan's simple and somewhat silly personality, a white dress should be quite suitable. Hulaina hugged the white dress and walked over. At this moment, the resplendent light disappeared and Xiaolan's figure finally appeared. At this time, the rustling of clothes came from behind. You're not allowed to peek. If anyone dares to peek, I'll put them in the cauldron and refine them. I'll roast them alive, especially fatty. If you dare to peek, I'll turn your chicken into roasted chicken. Lu Yuan's faint voice came out, and everyone could not help but tremble, especially Ma Hongjun, whose forehead was dripping with cold sweat. Turning a chicken into a roasted chicken scared him a little. Hee hee, Boss Yuan, don't worry. I'll never peek. Ma Hongjun chuckled. The others also nodded. They were not wretched men. They would not do such things as peeking. Ma Hongjun had the intention, but he did not have the guts to do it. That's more like it. Lu Yuan's expression eased a little. It did not matter how many girlfriends he had. It was a world where the strong were respected, and there were many wives and concubines. However, peeping was not something a normal man should do. People should at least have a bottom line. 2 minutes later, the rustling of clothes behind them gradually stopped. It was estimated that Xiaolan should have changed her clothes. Ahem, you can all turn around now. Hulina's soft voice rang in the ears of Lu Yuan and the others. Lu Yuan turned around, his double pupils slightly focused, and Xiaolan's appearance was completely imprinted into his eyes. She was about 15 or 16 years old, with long blue hair that hung straight down to her waist. Her face was like jade, her skin was whiter than snow, her nose was tall and exquisite, and her small cherry lips were moist and dark red, suffused with a faint luster. Her willowy eyebrows were curved, and her clear blue eyes were blinking. She was exceptionally quick-witted, and her white dress added a pure and flawless temperament. She was truly a great beauty that was hard to find in this world. You're Xiaolan. Looking at the pretty little girl in front of him, Lu Yuan's eyes flashed with surprise. He really didn't expect Xiaolan to be so beautiful after transforming. She wasn't inferior to Hu Lina, Zhu Zhuqing, and the others at all. Even compared to Wang Qiu, and Chihiro Snow, she was only slightly inferior. Furthermore, Xiaolan's pure and flawless temperament was very unique. To be honest, it made Lu Yuan's eyes light up. "Brother Lu Yuan," Xiaolan spoke softly. Her voice was crisp and pleasant to the ears. It was as clear as a spring in the mountains, and unknowingly nourished one's heart. "Xiaolan's voice is so nice." Hulina couldn't help but exclaim softly. It was her first time hearing a voice as clear as Xiaolan's. "It's indeed very nice. It's also my first time hearing a voice as clear and pleasant as Xiaolan's." Lu Yuan smiled faintly. After being praised by Lu Yuan and Hulina, Xiaolan blushed a little. She was a little embarrassed, but her eyes were full of smiles. Seeing this scene, Lu Yuan couldn't help but smile. "This little girl is very shy. Brother Lu Yuan." Xiaolan took 2 steps forward and ran in front of Lu Yuan. Among everyone present, she was the closest to Lu Yuan. She was in her human form now, but she still liked to be close to Lu Yuan. "Little girl." Lu Yuan smiled and gently rubbed Xiaolan's head. Her blue hair was very soft, and there was even a little rustling. It felt good to the touch. After being rubbed by Lu Yuan, Xiaolan immediately closed her eyes in comfort. There was a look of satisfaction on her face. "You're my younger sister from now on." Lu Yuan smiled gently. From today onwards, he had another younger sister. Coincidentally, both of his younger sisters were soul beasts. Hearing Lu Yuan's words, Xiaolan nodded his little head obediently, and a smile bloomed on his little face. After hearing Lu Yuan's words, Hulina couldn't help but pout. She muttered softly, "You have another younger sister?" Including Wang Qiu, and Ma Xiaodao, Xiaolan was already the third. This fellow's ability to recognize his family is comparable to his ability to find a girlfriend. However, this is good too. Establishing a sibling status will prevent him from stealing what he's supposed to protect. Don't think I don't know that Ma Xiaotao likes him. Oomph. Hulina snorted in her heart. Her eyes were sharp, and these things couldn't be hidden from her. However, this fellow still had some self-awareness. He knew to reject Ma Xiaotao and directly recognized her as his elder sister. Hulina was very satisfied with Lu Yuan's actions. Although she wouldn't object if Lu Yuan really liked her, she naturally hoped that Lu Yuan would have fewer people in his harem. After all, she was also a woman. She also hoped that Lu Yuan would love her more. Did you all hear what I said? In the future, Xiaolan will be my younger sister. If any of you dare to bully her, you should consider the consequences yourself. Lu Yuan said with a fake smile. We wouldn't dare. Your younger sister is our younger sister. We can't wait to spoil her. Who dares to bully her? Ling Wei hurriedly expressed his stance. After knowing Lu Yuan for so long, everyone knew that Lu Yuan was a siscon. Anyone who dared to bully his younger sister was tired of living. That's right. We can't wait to spoil her. As soon as Ling Wei finished speaking, everyone could not help but agree. Other than Evil Moon, the rest of them more or less understood Lu Yuan's character. That's more like it. Xiaolan, remember these brothers and sisters. In the future, if there's anything you don't understand, or if you encounter any trouble, just look for them. I'll see if they dare to not help. Lu Yuan stroked Xiaolan's head and said gently. Okay. Xiaolan responded charmingly. She actually blinked her clear blue eyes and glanced at everyone one by one. In fact, she had seen many of the people here, but she wasn't familiar with all of them. Since Lu Yuan said so today, she naturally had to look at them again seriously. After all, Xiaolan was a very obedient, well-behaved, and simple girl. She naturally wouldn't go against Lu Yuan's words. Chapter 955. Evil Moon and the rest felt their mouths twitch when they saw Xiaolan's gaze sweep across them. They had heard that Lu Yuan was obsessed with his sister, and they had witnessed it today. His words were full of threats. Who would dare to not help him in the future? Furthermore, they had witnessed Xiao Lan's naivety. She was very pure, and the key was that she was very obedient. She would do whatever Lu Yuan told her to do. But then again, if they had a sister as pure, obedient, and cute as Xiao Lan, they would also dote on her like Lu Yuan. Let's go and see Xiao Bai and the rest. There's another one here for Xiao Xiao Bai. Lu Yuan said gently as he patted Xiao Lan's head. Okay. Xiao Lan replied obediently. Lu Yuan smiled faintly and held Xiao Lan's hand as they walked toward Xiao Bai and the rest. Lu Yuan and Xiao Lan stood by the circular seaside. Xiao Bai's eyes were fixed on Xiao Lan, and there was a look of astonishment in her eyes. This form transformation pill had really allowed Xiao Lan to transform. From what she could sense, Xiao Lan wasn't any different from a human other than the aura of a soul beast on its body. Immediately, the way she looked at Lu Yuan changed. This human's methods were too shocking. Speaking of form transformation pills, I have 2 left. I'm just not sure if you want them. Lu Yuan smiled faintly. He shook his hand, and 2 form transformation pills appeared in his hand. Xiao Bai's eyes immediately widened. Of course I want them. Xiao Bai hurriedly replied. This form transformation pill wasn't just for her. It was also very useful for her daughter. It could freely transform between a human and a soul beast, and it could even cultivate at the same speed as a human. Which soul beast wouldn't be greedy for such a divine pill? If her daughter had to cultivate for tens of thousands of years to reach the 100,000-year level, with this form transformation pill, her cultivation speed would be comparable to a human's. Perhaps she would only need a few decades to become a titled Douluo, which was the 100,000-year level for soul beasts. Such an item was definitely a rare treasure. However, this thing is so precious. I'm afraid it won't be so easy to obtain, Little White thought to herself. It's good that you want it. As long as you do me a favor, I'll give these 2 transformation pills to you and your mother. Lu Yuan said with a smile. What is it? Little White asked cautiously. Could it be that Lu Yuan wanted it to do something that risked its life? If that was the case, then it would really have to hesitate. It's not difficult. Nana and the others' first test is almost over. The second test should be related to you, so please train them well. Don't go easy on them. Lu Yuan said. It's that simple. Little White asked in astonishment. It's that simple. Otherwise, do you think I would ask you to do something so difficult? Lu Yuan said with a faint smile. I really think so. I misunderstood you. You're really a good person. Lil White sighed and said. You don't have to give me the good guy card. It feels weird, Lu Yuan said. Nice guy card? What's that? Little White's eyes flashed with a trace of doubt. It's fine if you don't know, Lu Yuan said softly and threw out 2 transformation pills, which were swallowed by Little White and Little White. Nana, get a set of clothes for Little White. Little White doesn't need it. Lu Yuan shouted at Hulina. As a 100,000-year soul beast, Little Bai was already able to transform at will. Condensing a set of clothes was a small matter. The form transformation pill gave her a cultivation speed that was comparable to a human's. On the other hand, Little Bai would definitely be naked when it transformed for the first time, so it was necessary to prepare a set of clothes. I already said it's not called Little White. Don't you think this name is weird? Little White said snappily. Then what should we call it? Lu Yuan asked. Since it's going to transform, then let's give it a human name. What do you think of the name Bai Xiao? Little White asked. Bai Xiao? It's all right. It sounds better than your Little White. As expected, the sea god has no talent in naming. Lu Yuan said indifferently. You're not allowed to belittle the sea god. Little White protested loudly. Although Lu Yuan treated them very well and even gave them the transformation pill, they were definitely not allowed to belittle the sea god. Look at how anxious you are. Lu Yuan shook his head. Seeing the radiance on Little White's body, he immediately turned his head and pulled Little Blue to the side. Soon Little White, oh no, Bai Xiao also finished transforming. Compared to Xiao Lan, who was around 15 years old after her transformation, the current Bai Xiao was only around 8 years old. She looked as delicate as a porcelain doll. Looking at Bai Xiao, Lu Yuan's eyes turned and an idea arose in his mind. Little White, why don't we make a deal? Lu Yuan said. What deal? Little White looked at Lu Yuan in confusion. Let's arrange a marriage between Xiao and my son. What do you think? Lu Yuan asked with a smile. You have a son? When did this happen? Why didn't we know? Hearing Lu Yuan's words, Hulina and Zhu Zhuqing immediately stared at Lu Yuan with their eyes wide open. Could it be that this guy had an affair and even left a child? One had to know that they didn't have a child yet. Thinking of this, the two men's gazes became unfriendly. Cough, cough, not yet. But as long as you two work hard, you'll have one in the future. Being stared at by the two cold eyes, Lu Yuan couldn't take it anymore. He coughed lightly and said, Tisk, so you don't have a child. I thought you were extremely daring and dared to have an affair behind our backs and left some illegitimate child. Hulina curled her lips and said indifferently, What are you thinking? Am I that kind of person? Hearing this, Lu Yuan didn't know whether to laugh or cry. When had he ever not been honest with his girlfriend? Why would he need to have an affair? Why are you arranging a marriage when you're not even born yet? Zhu Zhuqing stared at Lu Yuan with her clear eyes and said unhappily, Ahem, ahem, not now, but sooner or later there will be one. Moreover, such a cute and exquisite girl like Xiao can't possibly be taken advantage of by some other family's little bastard. As a father, I have to worry more about my unborn son. Nowadays, good girls are getting harder and harder to find. Hulina, Zhu Zhuqing, Xiaobai, everyone. Hearing this, the whole place became silent. Hulina and the others' mouths twitched. They were slightly speechless. So you're really thinking too far ahead. You're even worrying about the next generation? But then again, this girl Xiao is really quite cute. She's just like a porcelain doll. Hulina looked at by Xiao and muttered in her heart. She suddenly felt that although Lu Yuan's plan was strange, it didn't seem to be completely unreasonable. Chapter 956. What do you think, Xiaobai? Do you want to consider it? Lu Yuan touched his chin gently and said with a faint smile. Well, Xiaobai frowned slightly and thought quietly. Xiaobai, who had transformed into a human, was also a great beauty. Moreover, her figure was very hot. If it wasn't for Bai Xiao standing beside her, one wouldn't be able to tell that she was already a mother. Xiaobai frowned and occasionally glanced at Lu Yuan. Obviously, she was weighing the pros and cons by Xiao was her daughter. She doted on her a lot. Naturally, she wanted her to find a good husband in the future. If they were to arrange an infant marriage, the risk would be too great. No one knew what Lu Yuan's son would be like in the future. To be honest, she was a little worried. However, Lu Yuan had brought it up. Moreover, Lu Yuan treated them so well. She felt a little embarrassed to directly reject him. Moreover, if she could really become in-laws with Lu Yuan, she was actually very happy. After all, Lu Yuan's family was not ordinary. Everyone had the potential to become gods. Becoming in-laws with Lu Yuan was a climb for her. Therefore, Xiao Bai was actually feeling a little conflicted. Lu Yuan was the best at reading people's expressions. When he saw Xiao Bai's expression, he knew what Xiao Bai was worried about. He immediately smiled and said, Why don't we settle down first? When my son is born, I'll bring him over for you to see. If you're not satisfied, we can break off the engagement. Really? Xiao Bai was delighted. Lu Yuan was willing to take a step back like this? Of course. When it comes to marriage, both parties have to be satisfied. We can't force a marriage, right? Lu Yuan said with a faint smile. I knew you were a good person. Hearing Lu Yuan's words, Xiao Bai immediately revealed a smile and said sweetly, Damn, you're giving me the good person card again. Lu Yuan shook his head with a bitter smile. No one had ever called him a good person like Xiao Bai. Although he wasn't a bad person, he definitely wasn't a good person either. He still had this much self-awareness. By the way, Obu Chi, there are so many of us here. Whose son are you going to let be engaged to Su Su? Hulina's eyes turned as she asked in a sweet voice. Hulina was quite satisfied with Bai Xiao. Bai Xiao was too delicate and cute. Although she was a soul beast, she didn't really care. Hulina was quite open-minded. It would be good if such a girl could become her daughter-in-law. Yeah, that's a problem. As soon as Hulina's voice fell, Zhu Zhuqing's gaze also fell on Lu Yuan. Her clear eyes stared straight at him. In her heart, she was also very satisfied with Bai Xiu Xiu. Moreover, her acceptance of Soul Beast was higher than Hulina's. In the past, Xiao Wu was also a 100,000-year Soul Beast. She was already familiar with it. It's very simple. Whoever gives birth to a son first will let their son be engaged to Su Su. I've always been a fair person. It's up to you all whether you can live up to expectations. Lu Yuan spread his hands and said softly, "Then he will definitely be my first son." Hulina raised her head and said with a face full of confidence. Now, Lu Yuan only doted on her, who asked Zhu Zhuqing, Ning Rongrong, and the others to work hard to cultivate and complete the assessment. Unlike her, who was strong and could easily complete the assessment. Sure enough, the stronger one was the better. You're the first? That's not necessarily true, Zhu Zhuqing sneered. Although her strength wasn't as good as Hulina's, that was because of the age gap. However, when it came to giving birth, she didn't admit defeat. Obuchi only dotes on me now. You don't have time to accompany him at all. You think you can get pregnant before me? That's impossible, Hulina said with a face full of pride. Is that so? Obuchi also accompanied you alone in Massacre City for more than a year. They were together every day, but you didn't get pregnant. Zhu Zhuqing said faintly. You can't blame me for that. That's Obuchi's problem. Hulina gritted her teeth and said, Lu Yuan. The flames of war had spread to him. As soon as these words came out, everyone's gaze shifted to Lu Yuan. Boss had so many girlfriends, but he actually had a problem in that area. They really didn't expect it. No wonder none of his girlfriends were pregnant. So it was because of this. Everyone came to a sudden realization. Being stared at by everyone, Lu Yuan's face gradually darkened. Hulina, this girl, couldn't she say it more clearly? Was it because he couldn't do it? That was because of the special situation of his bloodline. Okay. Hulina. Lu Yuan's double pupils glared at Hulina, and his voice came out from between his teeth. Being called by Lu Yuan like this, Hulina's delicate body trembled, and a bad feeling welled up in her heart. She turned around and looked at Lu Yuan with an embarrassed expression. Oh no, she didn't say it clearly just now. Obuchi was probably angry now. Cough, cough. I didn't say it clearly just now. I have something to add. Hulina began to frantically try to save herself. She explained everything about Lu Yuan's bloodline evolution and everything else. With that explanation, everyone finally understood what was going on. So it was because of the bloodline. It wasn't that Boss couldn't do it. On the contrary, Boss was very powerful. After explaining, Hulina blinked her big eyes and looked at Lu Yuan pitifully. Looking at Hulina's pitiful appearance, Lu Yuan asked with a smile, From what you said just now, you really want a child, right? Hearing this, Hulina nodded blankly. Then I'll fulfill your wish. As Lu Yuan spoke, he moved in front of Hulina and pulled her into his arms. His right arm held her in place tightly. Zhuqing, you come too. Looking at Zhu Zhuqing, who had a cold expression but a trace of smile in her eyes, Lu Yuan couldn't help but feel angry. He reached out with his left hand and pulled Zhu Zhuqing into his embrace. Zhu Zhuqing couldn't help but exclaim. Although she really wanted to be close to Lu Yuan, with so many people staring at her, she was really embarrassed with her thin skin. I still have to cultivate and prepare for the assessment. Zhu Zhuqing made her own struggle. Today, Lu Yuan obviously wanted to teach them a lesson. He definitely wouldn't be as gentle and pitiful as usual. If they were taken away by him, they definitely wouldn't be able to get out of bed tomorrow. You won't die if you miss the assessment for one day. Just accept your fate. Lu Yuan said coldly. Holding the two of them, his body moved, and he directly turned into a golden light and disappeared on the spot. As expected, a boss, he's really awesome. Ma Hongjun looked at Lu Yuan's back, gradually disappearing with an envious expression on his face. He remembered that at the great arena of souls in Soto City, Lu Yuan seemed to have also carried Chihiro's snow to get a room. Sure enough, an awesome life doesn't need to be explained. He's really a role model for my generation, Ma Hongjun thought and glanced at Oscar. Sure enough, Oscar also glanced over. The two of them thought of the same thing. Chapter 9:57. In the sky above the sea god's island, two balls of light, one blue and one gold, collided intensely, dispersing all the clouds in the sky. The golden light gradually dissipated, and Lu Yuan's figure was revealed. He was wearing the divine artifact Golden Dragon battle armor, and holding the super divine artifact Dragon Emperor Draining Spring Spear in his hand. Behind him, the god-tier external soul bone Icefire Dragon King's wings were slightly flapping, bringing with it waves of energy. Lu Yuan's figure gradually came to a halt as he stared across with his double pupils. The corner of his mouth could not help but curl into a smile. The blue light faded and Pasizi's figure appeared. She held a golden trident in her hand that was covered in faint demonic patterns. There was a diamond-shaped hole in the middle of the trident, which was where the sea god's heart was placed. TSK. I never thought that the sea god would make an exception and allow you to use the sea god's trident. However, it doesn't seem to be of any use. You're still no match for me. Lu Yuan could not help but chuckle softly as he looked at Pasizi, who was wearing a red royal robe and holding the sea god's trident in her hand. Pasizi's face darkened when she heard that. She had already borrowed divine power to reach the demigod realm. She had even used the sea god's trident under the sea god's instructions. However, she still could not gain any advantage over this little rascal. One had to know that this little rascal could not use his martial soul due to the restrictions of the test. Not being able to use his martial soul meant that his battle prowess was greatly weakened. Even so, not only was she unable to take down Lu Yuan, she even felt that it was difficult to resist him. Just how strong was this little rascal in front of her? What a freak! Pasizi could not help but be amazed. Lu Yuan's talent was unimaginably high. Although this guy liked to annoy her, there was nothing to be said about his talent. Even she could not help but admire him. It was just that she had never shown it. It's still too early to say whether I'm your match or not. Even if I can't defeat you, it won't be that easy for you to pass the second test. Pasizi stared at Lu Yuan with her beautiful blue eyes as she spoke. It was one thing to admire Lu Yuan's talent, but it was also true that she wanted to beat up Lu Yuan. Who asked this brat to anger her so much? She couldn't use her martial soul in this assessment, so this was probably her only chance to beat up Lu Yuan. If she couldn't beat him up now, this guy would be able to use his full strength when the assessment was over. At that time, she really wouldn't be his match. No way, it's just a test. There's no need to be so serious. You really aren't my opponent. I can still hold back now, but if the fight gets intense later and I accidentally injure you, it won't be good. Others will think that I'm bullying an old man. Lu Yuan shook his head and said nonchalantly, "Bastard, you're still talking." Hearing Lu Yuan call her old man again, Pasizi was furious. Usually this guy would call Little White 100,000-year-soul beast, a great beauty when he saw her, but when he met her, he would call her old man and old beauty. Did she look that old? He really deserved a beating. Watch out for my trident, Pasizi shouted angrily. The sea god's trident shone brightly and pierced towards Lu Yuan's chest. Lu Yuan didn't dare to be negligent. Although he had a divine body, the sea god's trident was a super divine tool. Although it lacked the sea god's heart, it was still a damaged super divine tool with extraordinary power. He didn't dare to block it with his body. With a move of his hand, the Dragon Emperor Draining Spring Spear stabbed out. The spear moved like wind and thunder. It arrived first and collided with the sea god's trident in Pasizi's hand. Bang! Suddenly, a boundless mighty force burst forth. Pasizi's figure was blasted back several hundred meters, and the jade-like hand holding the sea god's trident was numb from the shock. Lu Yuan, on the other hand, held the sea god's trident and looked at her with a smile. He's really a bull. Where did he get so much strength? Pasizi cursed secretly. If it wasn't for her profound soul power, the sea god's trident in her hand would have been sent flying. I thought that Tang Chen's clear sky hammer was the peak of a strength-type soul master. The combination of strength and skill was impossible to guard against, but compared to this guy in front of me, it really pales in comparison. Pasizi's expression was solemn. When Lu Yuan's power pressed down, it was like a towering mountain that was difficult to resist. "Are you okay?" Lu Yuan's voice came from afar. "Of course I'm fine." Again, Pasizi gritted her teeth. Soul power burst out from her body, and the sea god's divine power burst out. She attacked Lu Yuan again. "Interesting. I don't believe that I can't defeat you," Lu Yuan whispered softly. The Dragon Emperor draining spring spear drew a strange trajectory. In the void, there were waves of sound. It was the sea god's 13 halberds. "I'll use it to deal with you." Lu Yuan smiled gently. Pasizi's expression would be very interesting to see if she was defeated by the sea god's 13 halberds. With a move, Lu Yuan turned into a golden light and rushed towards Pasizi. Lu Yuan and Pasizi fought in the sky. Hulina and the others were watching at the foot of the sea god's mountain. It was worth mentioning that they had just completed the test to pass the sea god's light. Unknowingly, another year had passed. Everyone was 1 year older. Zhu Zhuqing, Lu Yuan, and the others were all 18 years old. With Lu Yuan's help and the tempering of the sea god's light, Zhu Zhuqing's soul power had risen to rank 69. She was only a step away from the bottleneck of rank 70. After Ning Rongrong consumed the origin pill, she cultivated for another 2 months and rose to rank 67. She was 2 ranks lower than Zhu Zhuqing, but she had finally caught up. Hulina was a rank 76 soul sage. After absorbing her 7th soul ring, she rose another 2 ranks. As for the others, they had also improved by quite a bit. "What's the situation above? I can't see clearly at all," Ning Rongrong said softly. In order to prevent damage to the sea god's island, Lu Yuan and Pasizi had risen to a height of 4,000 meters. Those who didn't have good eyesight wouldn't be able to see the situation. Even the eyes of Soul Emperor like Ning Rongrong, Lu Yuan, and Pasizi were just 2 blurry dots of light. "Don't worry, Master's going to win. Pasizi isn't Master's match." The deep-sea demon whale, King said softly. There was a trace of shock in his eyes. He had fought with Lu Yuan before, but after a year, Lu Yuan's fighting strength had risen to a height that he couldn't touch. He was able to suppress Pasizi without using his martial soul. This kind of strength was amazing. "Really? I knew Obuchi would win," Ning Rongrong said with a smile. In her eyes, Lu Yuan was an invincible existence. No one was his match. Hulina and the others nodded inwardly. It seemed that they hadn't seen Lu Yuan lose before. The only person they had seen before wasn't here. Chapter 958. Ever since his debut, Lu Yuan had only lost once. That was also the only time Lu Yuan had encountered a life and death crisis. At that time, he was only a soul ancestor. He had encountered the Blood Emperor of the Holy Ghost Church and had almost died. It was only this time that Lu Yuan won every battle and never lost again. Apart from Guyuna and the group of soul beasts, the only other person who had seen Lu Yuan's miserable state was Chihiro Snow. However, Chihiro Snow wasn't here right now. Is Big Brother going to win? Big Brother is so strong. Xiaolon raised her head. Her long blue hair swayed gently as she blinked her clear blue eyes. She had a sweet smile on her face. She was pure, innocent, and youthful. Her entire being was filled with vitality. The deep-sea devil whale king stretched out his remaining right hand and gently stroked Xiao Lan's head with a trace of affection in his eyes. Even a vicious tiger wouldn't eat its cubs. No matter how savage and cunning the deep-sea devil whale king was, he still loved Xiao Lan from the bottom of his heart. Otherwise, he wouldn't have personally run out to look for Xiao Lan after she went missing. Although he wasn't a soul beast, he was definitely a good husband and a good father. He still cared for his wife and daughter very much. This point could be seen from the original story, where the demon empress didn't hesitate to become enemies with the entire continent to avenge him. If it weren't for the good relationship between husband and wife, the demon empress wouldn't have done this. I will die sooner or later. Since Sir wants me to be a sacrifice for someone else, then it must be true. Even if I can be resurrected, it will be a long time in the future. Xiaolan is so pure, I can't be at ease. It would be great if she could follow Sir. The deep-sea devil whale king thought to himself as he stroked Xiaolan's head. He had never trusted anyone from the sea god's island, but he trusted Lu Yuan. That day, Lu Yuan had spared his life because of Xiaolan. Otherwise, he would have died long ago. How could he have the chance to be resurrected? With Lu Yuan's sentimental nature, if Xiaolan were to follow him, he would definitely not mistreat Xiaolan. If Xiaolan can be together with my lord, based on how much he dotes on his woman, then I will truly be at ease. Although my lord is extremely good to Xiaolan now, a little sister is still a little sister. I just feel that it's not a sure thing. The deep-sea demonic whale king looked at Lu Yuan, who was fighting in the sky, and its eyes rolled as it thought of something. Xiaolan, on the other hand, didn't notice it at all. How could someone as innocent as her think so much? As for Lu Yuan, he was even more clueless. He was still fighting with Pasizi. See God descends. Pasizi shouted and unleashed the power of the sea god to its peak. A huge shadow of the sea god appeared in the sky. It was thousands of feet tall, and people on the ground could see it clearly even though they were high up in the sky. Seeing the shadow of the sea god, the residents of the sea god island all fell to their knees and madly kowtowed. They were all the most loyal followers of the sea god. Interesting, the shadow of the sea god? It's that descending move again. Lu Yuan faintly smiled. He had once fought with the angel shadow, and now he was going to fight with the shadow of the sea god. I'll use the sea god's ultimate skill to play with you. 13th halberd, body and halberd as one. Stellar transposition. Lu Yuan shouted, and the dragon emperor drain's spring spear shined brightly. A 5-clawed golden dragon shadow roared towards the sky, exuding a terrifying dragon might. Lu Yuan's figure changed, and he merged with the dragon emperor drain's spring spear. Suddenly, the dragon emperor drain's spring spear became larger. The originally 3-meter-long spear became 100 meters long. The spear light swallowed and spat out, bringing with it an extremely powerful might. Body and halberd as one. Stellar transposition. Or it could be said that Lu Yuan's body and halberd is one. This was actually the last move of the sea god's 13 halberds, and it was also the strongest move of the 13 halberds. Lu Yuan had obtained this move a long time ago. Now that he had completed the sea god's 13 halberds, the power of this move had reached a new level. Among Lu Yuan's self-created soul skills, there was only one move that could compare with it. Its attack power was absolutely terrifying. The 100-meter-long dragon emperor drain spring spear shot out. It was an ordinary 5-clawed golden dragon with a majestic might. Pasizi's expression turned solemn. He swung the sea god's trident heavily. The huge shadow of the sea god held the huge trident flickering with golden light in its hand and attacked the dragon emperor drain's spring spear. Boom! The dragon emperor drain's spring spear and the huge trident shadow collided. Energy burst out high in the sky, and the void exploded, setting off a terrifying energy hurricane. Pah! A clear sound rang out. Under the attack of the dragon emperor draining spring spear, the trident phantasm was instantly shattered. The dragon emperor drained spring spear advanced again and pierced through the sea god shadow. The huge sea god shadow collapsed into energy light spots that filled the sky. With the sea god's shadow broken, Pasizi immediately spat out a mouthful of blood. His face was deathly pale. He had obviously suffered a backlash and was seriously injured. He struggled to look at the dragon emperor drained spring spear that was about to pierce his eyes. His expression was slightly complicated. Then, a smile appeared on his pale face. That smile was very beautiful. When the dragon emperor drained spring spear was about to pierce Pasizi's body, a golden light flashed. The 100-meter-long Dragon Emperor Drain Spring Spear disappeared. Lu Yuan's figure appeared again, holding the 3-meter-long Dragon Emperor Drain Spring Spear in his hand. Seeing Lu Yuan, Pacizi smiled. He opened his mouth and wanted to say something. Suddenly, his body trembled and fell down. Lu Yuan's eyes were sharp and his hands were fast. He flapped his dragon wings and flew out. He stretched out his left hand and caught Pacizi, holding him in his arms. I told you to admit defeat earlier. You just had to fight with me. Now you know how powerful I am, right? Looking at the pale Pacizi, Lu Yuan said indifferently. Hearing Lu Yuan's words, Pacizi was angry. He couldn't help coughing. You cough. However, although he coughed, his eyes were still staring at Lu Yuan. Okay, don't be angry. I won't say anymore. If I really made you angry, it would be my fault. Lu Yuan said, then closed his mouth and didn't speak again. Pacizi glanced at Lu Yuan, then snorted and gently rested her head on Lu Yuan's shoulder. The two figures fell straight down. After a few minutes, the two people landed in front of the sea god's palace. The moment Lu Yuan landed, a voice sounded in Lu Yuan's mind. Second sea gods, 3 tests completed. Reward: 10,000 years increase in the age of all soul rings. 1 god-bestowed soul ring. Another god-bestowed soul ring? Lu Yuan muttered softly. With this god-bestowed soul ring, Lu Yuan had 2 god-bestowed soul rings in his hands. The more god-bestowed soul rings, the better. Even if I don't use it, Cher and Rome can use it. This god-bestowed soul ring is at least 100,000-year soul ring. It's still quite precious, Lu Yuan thought inwardly. Chapter 959. Lu Yuan had naturally thought about the soul rings of Hulina and the rest. Hulina's soul rings had already been decided. She only needed 2 more soul rings. Her 8th soul ring was a gift from God, and her 9th soul ring could be from a powerful spiritual-type soul beast, such as the Evil Eye Tyrant King. After all, it was a soul beast from the Sun-Moon continent, and didn't have much to do with Guyuna. It wouldn't be a bad idea to use it as Hulina's 9th soul ring. He rarely hunted soul beasts, but if Hulina needed one, he would kill it. After all, the Evil Eye Tyrant King was very suitable for Hulina. Furthermore, it was from the Sun-Moon continent. It wouldn't be a burden for him to kill it. Before the laws of heaven and earth changed, killing soul beasts was something that couldn't be avoided. As for whether they were evil or not, that was secondary. He only hunted them because he needed them. Killing only evil soul beasts was just a cover for his actions. For example, the deep-sea devil whale king. If it hadn't provoked Lu Yuan wouldn't have bothered with it. However, Lu Yuan wanted to kill it. Apart from the fact that it had provoked Lu Yuan, it was also because Lu Yuan wanted that million-year soul ring and soul bone. Lu Yuan had never denied this point. The deep-sea devil whale king's soul ring might not be necessary for him, but was very suitable for BB Dawn. Furthermore, the deep-sea devil whale king wanted to eat him, so Lu Yuan naturally wouldn't let it go. The logic was that simple. Lu Yuan wasn't a saint. He didn't attack soul beasts from the Great Star Do Forest because of his bloodline, and also because of Guyuna and Wang Xiao. Soul beasts devoured each other, let alone humans and soul beasts. Lu Yuan and Guyuna's focus was on the soul beasts as a whole. As long as their species wasn't destroyed, they could rise. They didn't care if a soul beast died. This was Lu Yuan's truest thought. Or rather, this was the typical thinking of those in power. For example, wouldn't people die if they were to unify the continent? Naturally, there would be. However, after unification, the people of the entire continent would be able to live better lives. That was why some pain didn't matter. What was important was the whole, not the parts. He had to admit that as his status grew higher, Lu Yuan's thinking had also changed a lot. Apart from Hulina, Zhu Zhuqing's 7th soul ring should be a god-bestowed soul ring. Her 8th soul ring should be the evil demon tiger whale king, and her 9th soul ring should be the deep-sea devil whale king. However, the deep-sea devil whale king had been given to BB Dawn, so Zhu Zhuqing's 9th soul ring should be a god-bestowed soul ring. Therefore, Lu Yuan would definitely leave one of the two God-bestowed soul rings for Zhu Qing. As for Chihiro's snow, she already had a God-bestowed soul ring, so her 8th soul ring wasn't a problem. As for her 9th soul ring, she might need another God-bestowed soul ring. Moreover, Chihiro's snow might need a second martial soul, so her need for a soul ring would be even greater. Furthermore, Ning Rongrong was still missing 3 soul rings, so the 2 God-bestowed soul rings in her hands weren't enough. Therefore, the saying that the more God-bestowed soul rings, the better wasn't wrong. With a light wave of his right hand, he put away the Dragon Emperor draining spring spear, while his left hand was still wrapped around Pasizi's waist. "Can you stand by yourself?" Lu Yuan asked softly. However, when he saw Pasizi's deathly pale face, his tone suddenly changed. "Forget it. I'll carry you in. Give me the Sea God's trident. It should be a bit heavy," Lu Yuan said as he took the Sea God's trident from Pasizi's hands. 108,000 jin. The weight is all right. Lu Yuan lightly weighed it, raised his eyebrows, and said. Seeing Lu Yuan take the Sea God's trident and carry it in his hands as if he didn't feel any weight at all, the corner of Pasizi's eyes couldn't help but twitch slightly. If she hadn't obtained the Sea God's permission to reduce the weight of such a heavy Sea God's trident to 1%, which was only 108,000 jin, she wouldn't be able to use it at all. However, in Lu Yuan's hands, this 108,000 jin Sea God's trident seemed to be like a fire stick, as it didn't have any weight at all. Pasizi couldn't help but sigh in her heart. Lu Yuan was really abnormal. She didn't know what level his strength had reached. "Let's go." With Pasizi in his left hand and the Sea God's trident in his right hand, Lu Yuan directly walked into the Sea God's palace. After placing Pasizi on the futon, Lu Yuan inserted the Sea God's trident back into the stone platform. It was strange to say that the originally golden Sea God's trident quickly dimmed after it was inserted into the stone platform and became ugly. It had to be said that as a super divine tool, the Sea God's trident had its own strange aspects. After putting the Sea God's trident back, Lu Yuan pulled a futon and sat opposite Pasizi. It wasn't the first time he had come to the Sea God's palace, and he was already very familiar with it. Ever since he passed all the Sea God's light, he had obtained the right to freely enter and exit the Sea God's palace. "Come, I'll heal you." Looking at Pasizi opposite him, Lu Yuan said lightly. "Sorry to trouble you," Pasizi said softly. "There's no need for that. After all, I was the one who injured you." Lu Yuan said softly. A white light shone from his right hand, and the clear Qi divine power enveloped Pasizi's body, helping her quickly heal her injuries. The collapse of the Sea God's shadow caused Pasizi's injuries to be not light, but the clear Qi divine power had a miraculous effect on healing. Under the effect of the clear Qi divine power, the injuries on Pasizi's body were more or less healed in the time it took to brew a cup of tea. After her injuries were more or less healed, Pasizi's spirit naturally recovered quickly, and her pale face became rosy again. "What kind of power is this? I feel that the quality is higher than the Sea God's divine power in my body." Feeling the white light enveloping her body, Pasizi asked softly with a trace of shock in her eyes. "This is the clear Qi divine power," Lu Yuan said lightly, and withdrew his right hand, withdrawing the clear Qi divine power back into his body. Pasizi's injuries were completely healed. Clear Qi divine power? Is this the power of the divine king's inheritance that you received? Pasizi asked curiously. "You can say so," Lu Yuan replied. The clear Qi divine seed was also considered the inheritance of the divine rule, so it wasn't wrong to say so. "Then why didn't you use this power to fight against the enemy just now?" Pasizi asked. Lu Yuan looked at Pasizi with amusement and said, "You weren't my opponent to begin with. If I used the clear Qi divine power, would you lose even more miserably? If I added the clear Qi divine power to that attack just now, you would have been dead. Don't you know what your level is?" "You." Hearing Lu Yuan's words, Pasizi's anger was stirred up again. Originally, she was very happy to see Lu Yuan heal her, But after these two sentences, Pasizi couldn't help but be angry again. Chapter 960. Can't you speak properly? Why do you have to mock me? Pasizi glared at Lu Yuan with her beautiful blue eyes as she spoke unhappily. This guy was really too hateful. How could there be such an infuriating brat in the world? Just a few words from him could make her angry. She thought that her temperament was top-notch. However, when she met Lu Yuan, her temperament was completely destroyed. Whatever tranquil and graceful appearance had completely disappeared. At this moment, seeing how infuriating Lu Yuan was, she really couldn't hold it in anymore. You're really angry. Sigh. If you don't want to say it, then don't say it. You can't even tell the truth these days. Lu Yuan sighed, softly with a regretful expression. He lamented the fact that public morals were deteriorating day by day. Seeing this scene, Pasizi secretly gritted her teeth and looked at Lu Yuan with an indignant expression. Are your injuries healed? Lu Yuan asked softly. You're the one who healed them, don't you know? Pasizi retorted. I can only make a rough estimate. I'm not sure if I've fully recovered. After all, you're the one who's injured, not me. I can't use my spiritual energy to probe, nor can I touch your body, right? Lu Yuan spread his hands and said innocently, Bah, what are you talking about, you little brat? Pasizi spat, her face slightly red. How could this guy dare to say anything? What did I say? Is there anything wrong? Lu Yuan was confused. Was there anything wrong with what he said? Could he touch her body? Bastard. Pasizi scolded softly. This little brat was still pretending to be ignorant? Why are you being a bastard again? Why do you like to scold people so much? You're the high priestess of the sea god's island with this kind of character? Lu Yuan shook his head with a look of disdain. Bastard, I think you're looking for a beating, Pasizi said as she raised her hand to slap Lu Yuan. Wait. Lu Yuan stopped him. What? Scared? Pasizi sneered. You think I'm afraid of you? Don't forget who was the one who was injured just now. Furthermore, this is the sea god's palace. Are you sure you want to fight in the sea god's palace? In front of the sea god's palace? The Lord sea god that you respect the most? Lu Yuan said softly. Pasizi's face stiffened. Not to mention that he couldn't win, the most important thing was that he couldn't even attack. No matter how bold she was, she wouldn't dare to fight in the sea god's palace. If she destroyed the sea god's palace, she would become a sinner of the sea god's island. Thinking about it, Pasizi couldn't help but glare at Lu Yuan fiercely. This little bastard was fearless because of this. Sure enough, he was a little bastard. He had some crooked ideas. Pasizi withdrew his hand and sat upright on the praying mat. That's right. It's not good to fight and kill. Don't think about hitting people for no reason. A gentleman uses his mouth, not his fists. Lu Yuan smiled when he saw Pasizi withdraw his hand. Is that so? I'm not a gentleman. I'm a woman. I don't like to use my mouth. I only like to use my fists, Pasizi said indifferently. She couldn't win against Lu Yuan with her mouth, so she could only use her fists. Although she couldn't win against him with her fists. A gentleman can also be a lady. Weren't you very good in the past? You were graceful and magnanimous. Look at you now. It's hard to explain in a few words. Lu Yuan shook his head with a look of pity. Pasizi, did she want to be like this? Who made her angry? Didn't she want to be a lady? Wasn't it because someone was too infuriating? Now, the culprit had the nerve to criticize her. Let's not talk about whether I'm a lady or not. You're really cheap, Pasizi said through gritted teeth. Is that so? Many people say that. Lu Yuan touched his chin and chuckled softly. Pasizi, she almost forgot that this guy was shameless and thick-skinned. No matter how she scolded him, it would be a waste of her saliva. This guy didn't care at all. Your God-given soul ring. Here, scram. I'm annoyed when I see you. Pasizi waved her hand, and a golden bead appeared in her hand. She tossed it lightly, and the golden bead flew toward Lu Yuan. Lu Yuan reached out and caught it. With a flip of his palm, he kept it in his star ring. Seeing that Lu Yuan was still sitting on the futon without moving, Pasizi couldn't help but scold him softly. Why aren't you scramming? Do I have to scram just because you told me to? Am I someone you can order around? I'm not going to scram. What do you do to me? As Lu Yuan spoke, he pulled another futon over and placed it behind him. Then, he lay down directly. He had just fought a fight, and he was quite tired. Lying down like this, the futon was soft, and it felt great to the touch. Seeing that Lu Yuan actually laid down directly, Pasizi couldn't help but grit her teeth. She was indignant, but there was nothing she could do. She could only sulk secretly. Lu Yuan, on the other hand, was satisfied. He lay down and actually fell asleep. Seeing that Lu Yuan was sleeping soundly, Pasizi couldn't help but sigh. What a scoundrel! As she spoke, she shook her head gently and stood up. With a wave of her hand, she took out a royal robe and draped it over Lu Yuan's body. After sleeping for about 3 hours, Lu Yuan woke up. Looking at the royal robe on his body, Lu Yuan's expression was a little surprised. He sat up and looked at Pasizi. Yours? If it's not mine, then is it yours? Pasizi said faintly. Thank you. Lu Yuan smiled brightly. It was the first time she saw Lu Yuan smile so brightly. Pasizi couldn't help but be stunned. Then, she said faintly, You also know how to say thank you. Why didn't you continue to anger me? Sorry, I was just joking with you. I didn't mean any harm. Lu Yuan smiled softly. Naturally, he didn't have any ill intentions towards Pasizi. He was just bored. Seeing that Pasizi was a great beauty, he just teased her. This old habit of his was acting up again. However, he was just teasing her. He didn't have any other thoughts. As for Pasizi, she probably wouldn't have any ill intentions. After all, she liked Tangchen. Lu Yuan thought to himself, this is called no malice. If there was malice, wouldn't I be angered to death? Pasizi glared at Lu Yuan angrily. Lu Yuan smiled awkwardly. His ability to anger people was really first class. Didn't Ning Fengji vomit blood because of him? At that time, he almost made Ning Rongrong turn against him. This was still fresh in his memory. Here, your clothes. Lu Yuan stepped forward and handed the royal robe to Pasizi. Pasizi stretched out her right hand and gently took it. There's something I want to tell you. Pasizi put away the royal robe and looked at Lu Yuan with a serious face. What's the matter? Looking at Pasizi's serious face, Lu Yuan couldn't help but become serious. Seeing that Pasizi was so serious, the matter must be very important. Immediately, Lu Yuan pricked up his ears and prepared to listen. Chapter 961. What I want to talk about is that form transformation pill of yours. Pasizi looked at Lu Yuan and said in a deep voice, Form transformation pill? Lu Yuan blinked. He roughly knew what Pasizi wanted to say. Yes, the form transformation pill. The effect of the form transformation pill that you refined is too heaven-defying. If it only allows a soul beast to transform into a human form, then it's not a big deal. However, it can also allow the soul beast to have the cultivation speed of a human. That's a little terrifying. Once a soul beast obtains the form transformation pill, it will break through to the 100,000-year level in an extremely short period of time. In addition, soul beasts have a long lifespan. They can live for a very long time, and the soul beast power can be accumulated quickly. 1 or 2 soul beasts is nothing, but if there are hundreds or thousands of them, then it's a big deal. The soul beast power is unprecedentedly strong, and it will be a great threat to humans. It may even affect the dominant position of humans. Under normal circumstances, gods cannot interfere with the lower realm. As long as there are no god-ranked experts among the soul beasts, gods cannot descend. In that case, if the soul beasts really develop to a terrifying stage, it will definitely be a huge disaster. Humans may even become like the ancient times, ruled by the soul beasts. Pasizi said in a serious voice. So you want to tell me not to casually distribute the form transformation pill? Lu Yuan asked with a smile. Yes. Pasizi nodded and said. Hearing this, Lu Yuan smiled faintly. His double pupils stared at Pasizi with a trace of admiration in his eyes. Why are you looking at me like that? Pasizi's eyes flashed as she was sized up by Lu Yuan. Her beautiful face was faintly burning. No one had ever stared at her as impudently as Lu Yuan. Because you're beautiful. As soon as the words came out of his mouth, Lu Yuan felt that something was wrong and quickly stopped. It didn't matter if he angered Pasizi, but he couldn't say such obvious provocative words. It was easy for people to misunderstand. But even if Lu Yuan braked in time, Pasizi still heard some of it. Her pretty face blushed, and her beautiful eyes couldn't help but glare at Lu Yuan, but she wasn't angry. Cough, cough. After being glared at by Pasizi, Lu Yuan's expression became serious. He said, "Actually, the reason I looked at you just now was because I admired you. You really have great foresight. After refining the form transformation pill, other than myself, you are the first person to think about it. You're not like them. They are all amazed by the miraculous effects of the form transformation pill, but they have not discovered anything deeper. You thought about this too?" After being praised by Lu Yuan, Pasizi's pretty face couldn't help but reveal a trace of a smile. Her beautiful eyes gazed at Lu Yuan as she asked softly. "Of course," Lu Yuan said softly. He pulled the futon behind him and sat down in front of Pasizi. "You don't think that I'm someone who only knows how to fight and not use my brain, do you? I'm not a blockhead like Tang Chun, who is very simple-minded." Lu Yuan said faintly. "Indeed, Tang Chun is simple-minded. He's too blockhead." Pasizi said faintly. If Tang Chun had a little brain, she would have already been loved by now. Even Sindoryu could understand the words, but Tang Chun couldn't understand them at all. In the past, she didn't think much of it, but now that she saw Lu Yuan's intelligence and wisdom, she cursed in her heart. Why was it that the same talent, the same indomitable spirit, and the same imposing manner were so different in terms of brains? It was fine if he didn't know how to sweet talk, but he didn't even have basic emotional intelligence. Could it be that people who use hammers are born to be boorish? Pasizi thought to herself. Hee, from your tone, there seems to be a story. Why do I feel that you have a grudge against Tang Chun? Lu Yuan asked with a smile. How is that possible? There's no such thing. Pasizi shook his head and said, You still don't want to admit it. You may be able to deceive others, but you definitely can't deceive me. I can see that you have a grudge against him in your heart. I heard that back then, Sindoryu and Tang Chun confessed their love to you at the same time. You said that you would only fall in love with gods, but in the end, both of them left. Sindoryu is an oracle and can never become a god. He knows that you don't like him, so he left. However, Tang Chun cultivated to become an ultimate Douluo on his own. He definitely has a chance to become a god. It's obvious that you have feelings for Tang Chun, but in the end, this idiot ran away on his own and really went to find a god's inheritance. I really don't know how his brain works. Lu Yuan shook his head and said calmly. Upon hearing Lu Yuan's words, Pasizi was shocked and looked at Lu Yuan in confusion. How do you know about what happened back then? Well, it's a secret. I can't tell you, Lu Yuan said with a mysterious expression. Of course, the truth was that he didn't know how to say it. Could he say that he had read the original work and knew about it? Not to mention whether Pasizi would believe him or not. That would be a little too stupid. Secret? You can't tell me? Pasizi's mouth twitched slightly, and he felt a little uncomfortable in his heart. By the way, did you spend a long time with Tang Chun and the others back then? Did you fall in love with them after a long time? Lu Yuan asked curiously. No, actually, we didn't spend a lot of time together. All of it added up to less than 2 months. Pasizi shook his head and said, Then, how did you fall in love with Tang Chun? Lu Yuan asked. After our fight, I learned that he had become a limit Douluo through his own efforts, and I was filled with admiration for him. Also, the indomitable aura that he exuded when he fought was very captivating. I've never seen anyone as outstanding as him, Pasizi recalled and said with a fleeting gaze. Lu Yuan, why did he feel like a little girl who had fallen in love for the first time and was moved by an outstanding man? It was a little like Ning Rongrong. This girl fell in love with him when she saw his heroic appearance at the Heaven Do Imperial Academy. It was love that turned from worship to admiration. However, Ning Rongrong was different from Bai Sai. After she knew that she liked Lu Yuan, she started to pursue him. It took more than 4 years. She experienced a lot and sacrificed a lot. In the end, she managed to get Lu Yuan with a bunch of drugs. In comparison, Pasizi and Tang Chun had much less experience. It was love at first sight because of how outstanding he was. However, this kind of love at first sight was very fragile. Without other emotional experiences and tests, this kind of relationship could easily collapse when meeting someone more outstanding. There were many cases of love at first sight in this world, but very few of them could end up together. Lu Yuan fell in love with Chihiro Snow at first sight, but how much did he and Chihiro Snow go through to get to where they were today? They had gone through life and death tests. Without these tests, the so-called love at first sight alone was far from enough for a relationship. Chapter 962. For example, he and Hulaina had developed feelings for each other over a long period of time. They had slept on the same bed for so many years, and that was how they developed their feelings for each other. Then there was Zhu Zhuqing. He saved the damsel in distress and took care of her. He also saw her body. Coupled with a long-term companionship, they were tightly connected and inseparable. He and Gu Yuna were like-minded, had the same goal, attracted by each other's blood, and had a very good impression of each other. That was why they got together. As for Bibi Dong, there was no need to mention it. The difficulty for him to conquer Bibi Dong was greater than anyone else, and the emotional entanglements were even more indescribable. Therefore, when he heard that Pasizi liked Tang Chun so much, he suddenly felt that their relationship was very thin. In the original work, Pasizi had always been obsessed with Tang Chun. It was probably because she had never met anyone better than Tang Chun. The only person who was slightly more talented than Tang Chun was Tang San, and he was Tang Chen's great-grandson. Pasizi naturally would not be tempted. Oh no, I suddenly feel that I'm a little dangerous. Lu Yuan was shocked. Compared to Tang Chun, he was much more outstanding. In terms of talent and strength, he was far superior to Tang Chun. In terms of appearance, he was unparalleled in the world. In terms of bearing, he was indomitable and fearless. In terms of intelligence, he played Ning Fengji in the palm of his hand. As for sweet talk, he was also good at it. Otherwise, he would not have been able to find so many girlfriends. His charm was much greater than Tang Chen's. I can't tease Pasizi anymore. If she really likes me, I'm really done for. I originally thought that she liked Tang Chun, so it didn't matter if I made a joke. After all, we're all friends. Now it seems that it doesn't matter. It's a big problem. Lu Yuan's thoughts turned. The more he thought about it, the more he felt that it made sense. He secretly made up his mind that he would never tease Pasizi again. He did not want to carry another love debt. Otherwise, it would be troublesome. As he thought about it, his expression became serious, and his entire temperament changed. If his temperament in the past was casual and lazy, then now it was dignified and upright. This sudden change in temperament made Pasizi look sideways. What was wrong with this rascal? What happened to you? Why does it feel a little different? Pasizi blinked and asked with some doubts. It's nothing. This is actually who I am. I'm actually a very serious person. Lu Yuan said with a serious face. Like hell I'll believe you. Stop pretending in front of me. We've known each other for a long time. Do you think I don't know what kind of person you are? Pasizi rolled her eyes at Lu Yuan. If this kid had been like this from the beginning, she would have believed him. But after getting along with him for a year, she had long figured out this kid's nature. He was casual about small things and serious about big things. He was arrogant in his heart, but he didn't put on airs when he was with his friends. Normally, he always had a lazy appearance, but when he was in battle, his will was extremely high. Although he looked calm on the outside, he was extremely dignified on the inside, and he meant what he said. As for now, there was nothing serious. Such a righteous appearance was obviously faked. Did he really think that she, Pasizi, was a fool? Usually, the reason why she was angry was because Lu Yuan's words were too harsh. She knew that Lu Yuan was joking, but she still couldn't control it. But even if Lu Yuan made her angry, she didn't really get angry in her heart. Just like Lu Yuan treated her as a friend, she also treated Lu Yuan as a friend that she could confide in. The strong were all lonely. They were actually the same. Lu Yuan didn't have many friends, and Pasizi naturally didn't have any friends either. However, as for whether this relationship would deteriorate, Lu Yuan definitely wouldn't, but Pasizi might. Lu Yuan had seen a lot of outstanding women, but Pasizi had seen very few outstanding men. Listening to Pasizi's words, Lu Yuan's mouth twitched slightly. It seemed that his previous image had left a deep impression on Pasizi. But thinking about it, if there was a person who made him angry every day, then he must have a deep impression of him. It was human nature. Looking at Lu Yuan's twitching mouth, Pasizi smiled faintly and asked, "Now let's talk about business. Do you have a clue about the third test?" The third test? Lu Yuan's eyes narrowed slightly. The third test of the sea god was to comprehend the realm of spear soul. The time limit was 1 year. Now he was still at the great perfection of spear intent. He was only 1 step away from the realm of spear soul, but it wasn't so easy to take this step. "I don't have a clue for the time being, but I can break through in a year," Lu Yuan said softly. "Well, if you need anything, just tell me. As long as I can help, I will help you," Pasizi said. "Thank you," Lu Yuan said with a smile. "No need, it's nothing," Pasizi said softly. Lu Yuan smiled faintly and stood up from the praying mat. He glanced at Pasizi and said, "Let's stop talking here. It's getting late. You were injured today. Although you've been cured, it's better for you to rest for a while. I'll take my leave first." Pasizi nodded gently. "Let's go," Lu Yuan said softly. With his hands behind his back, he walked out of the sea god palace. Looking at Lu Yuan's back, Pasizi's eyes flickered. Immediately, her faint sigh came from the sea god palace. At the foot of the sea god mountain, in the ring-shaped sea, Hulina and the others were undergoing their second test. They crossed the ring-shaped sea under the obstruction of the great white demon sharks. This test was quite difficult for Hulina and the others. Ouch! A person flew out of the ring-shaped sea and screamed in midair. He landed right in front of Lu Yuan, who was going down the mountain, and kicked up a cloud of dust. Lu Yuan stretched out his right hand and waved it lightly, fanning away the dust in front of him. When he saw the person in front of him, the corner of his eyes couldn't help but twitch. "Fatty, why is it you again?" It's Boss Yuan." Seeing Lu Yuan, Ma Hongjuan's big round face was a little embarrassed. However, the embarrassment on his face quickly turned into grievance. "Boss Yuan, you don't know. Little White is too much. She specifically attacked me. Look at how swollen my handsome face is." Ma Hongjun pointed at the bruises on his face and complained to Lu Yuan about Little White's cruel behavior. "She specifically attacked you. Is it because you're too wretched?" Lu Yuan looked at Ma Hongjun with a strange expression. Although Little White also had a feisty personality, she wouldn't randomly target someone. It must be because Ma Hongjun's wretched appearance made her unhappy. Ma Hongjun, he looked at Lu Yuan with a wronged expression. He had originally come to complain to Lu Yuan in high spirits, but Lu Yuan actually called him wretched. Chapter 963. Boss. Ma Hongjun had a bitter expression on his face, as if Lu Yuan's words had hurt his heart. All right. What are you pretending for? It's not like you've been wretched for a day or two, and you still want to pretend in front of me?" Looking at Ma Hongjun's bitter expression, Lu Yuan waved his hand in annoyance and said nonchalantly. Ning Rongrong also liked to make a bitter expression on his face, but when Ning Rongrong made such an expression, it was very delicate and touching, which could arouse Lu Yuan's desire to protect her. But when it was Ma Hongjun, he suddenly felt that letting this guy get beaten up by Xiao by 2 more times should be a very good thing. That fat, round face coupled with that bitter expression really made it hard for him to accept. Could it be that in Boss's impression of me, I'm only wretched? Ma Hongjun asked somewhat unwillingly. Of course not. Lu Yuan shook his head. Ma Hongjun's eyes suddenly lit up. Sure enough, His image in Boss's eyes was still very lofty. But before he could be happy, Lu Yuan's words sounded again, making his face immediately stiffen like a frosted eggplant, wilting. In addition to being wretched, you're also lecherous, greedy, shameless, lazy, and so on. Lu Yuan said indifferently. So, I don't have any good points? Ma Hongjun said with a sad face. So, Lu Yuan had always seen him like this? For a moment, he felt somewhat cold in his heart. You also have good points. You're very loyal. Being brothers with you is a very good choice. Moreover, although you're lecherous, you're also very affectionate. If you fall in love with a woman, you'll definitely love her for a lifetime. Lu Yuan smiled, patted Ma Hongjuan's shoulder, and then walked forward. Boss! Ma Hongjuan's eyes flickered with tears. It turned out that Lu Yuan really understood him. He didn't recognize the wrong boss. A smile appeared on his face again, and he chased after Lu Yuan. Lu Yuan walked slowly beside the ring-shaped sea. Only Xiaolan and Bai Xiuxiu, these two little girls, were there. The rest of the people were in the ring-shaped sea. Oh no, there was also the deep-sea demon whale, King, hiding in the corner. Brother. Seeing Lu Yuan, Xiaolan's clear blue eyes immediately lit up, and a clear and pleasant voice sounded in Lu Yuan's ears. Xiaolan quickly ran to Lu Yuan's side and stared at him with its big bright eyes. Lu Yuan smiled and gently stroked Xiaolan's soft blue hair, his eyes carrying a trace of gentleness. Lu Yuan was naturally very fond of this simple and adorable little sister of his. Lu Yuan gently rubbed Xiaolan's head, and a sweet smile appeared on Xiaolan's face. Her big eyes curved into beautiful crescents. Looks like Xiaolan really likes adults. Seeing this scene, the deep-sea monster whale King, sitting in a corner, softly muttered, its eyes darting around as its mind spun. Lu Yuan naturally didn't know what the deep-sea demon whale King was planning. He gently held Xiaolan's hand and walked towards the circular seaside. There, an 8-year-old cute little loli was staring at him with her big eyes. Xiuxiu, come here. When Lu Yuan was about 2 meters away from Bai Xiuxiu, he squatted down and waved at the little girl. Bai Xiuxiu carefully sized up Lu Yuan and hesitated for a moment before slowly walking in front of Lu Yuan. Bai Xiuxiu was very cute, but she was very pretty. When she grew up, she would probably be better than Xiaolan and wouldn't lose out to Wang Xiu'er. Lu Yuan was naturally very fond of this little girl. After all, she was his chosen daughter-in-law. He stretched out his right hand and pinched Bai Xiuxiu's cheeks. Her soft cheeks were very elastic. As Lu Yuan pinched her cheeks, the little girl stared at Lu Yuan with her big eyes. She pouted her lips and had a look of protest on her face. Coupled with her delicate little face, she was really adorable. Lu Yuan chuckled and gently patted the girl's head. This little girl had quite a personality. Interesting. Lu Yuan sat down on the circular seaside. Xiaolan was beside him, and he was holding a little girl in his arms as he watched the battle in the circular seaside. A series of water splashes could be heard. Evil Moon and the others were thrown out one by one. Finally, Hulina flew out in a parabola and landed beside Lu Yuan. She almost ate a mouthful of mud. Lu Yuan turned around, and Hulina happened to raise her head. Their eyes met, and there was a faint awkwardness in the air. Why didn't you catch me? Hulina felt a little embarrassed after being thrown so pathetically in front of Lu Yuan. However, to cover up her embarrassment, she rolled her eyes and took the initiative to make things difficult. Do you still need me to catch such a big person like you? Can't you see that I'm holding a little girl in my arms? How do I catch you? Lu Yuan said faintly. You'd rather hold a little girl than come and pick me up. You heartless bastard. Hulina gritted her teeth and scolded. Ahem, that's enough. Be careful. The little girl in my arms might be your daughter-in-law in the future. You've angered her now. If she's not filial in the future, don't blame me for not reminding you. If she talks to your son in the future and makes him alienate you, it will be interesting. Lu Yuan smiled faintly. Upon hearing this, Hulina's face stiffened. How could she forget this? This little girl might be her daughter-in-law in the future. She and Lu Yuan have been working so hard recently. The possibility of being the first one to get pregnant was very high. What are you talking about? Bai Xiuxiu stared at Lu Yuan with her big blue eyes. Her adorable face was filled with confusion. She could not understand what the two of them were talking about. However, her intuition told her that they weren't talking about anything good. Nothing. We mean that Xiuxiu is really cute. We love you to death. Lu Yuan said with a smile as he pinched Bai Xiuxiu's little face. Is that so? Bai Xiuxiu slapped Lu Yuan's hand away with a look of disbelief on her little face. Of course, right, Nana? Lu Yuan winked at Hulina. Yes, Xiuxiu is really beautiful. We all love you. Come, let any Nana hug you. Hulina got up and opened her arms to Bai Xiuxiu. Bai Xiuxiu was shocked. Instead, she snuggled even tighter into Lu Yuan's arms. Any Nana is dirty. Bai Xiuxiu's childish voice rang out. Upon hearing this, Lu Yuan burst into laughter. Hulina's face stiffened. She looked down and saw that her white clothes were indeed covered in mud. Mixed with the water on her body, it was simply muddy. It was no wonder that Hulina despised it. This little girl loved to be clean. You're still laughing. Hulina raised her head and looked at the laughing Lu Yuan. Suddenly, she was furious. She pounced forward and hugged Lu Yuan from behind. She rubbed all the mud on her body onto Lu Yuan's back. Now you're as dirty as me. Hulina raised her head and said arrogantly. Upon hearing this, Lu Yuan's mouth twitched. This woman. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.